Chapter 1226. When he heard that Yun Jian was going, Shuang knew that his young master would definitely go with them. He laughed heartily and looked very refreshed. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. There were big and small nightclubs. Yun Jian had been to a few nightclubs since her rebirth, but they were all small. The royal nightclub that Ningxia was talking about was a chain nightclub in Country Z. It was quite famous in Country Z. Yun Jian had overheard some male classmates talking about it when she was in school. However, Yun Jian had never been interested in it. Since Shuang was taking the lead today, Yun Jian wanted to join in the fun. When Qin Yiru heard that the children were going to a nightclub, she couldn't help but remind them, that kind of place is not safe. You can go and have fun, but you can't drink drinks given by strangers. Some time ago, there was even news about a nightclub being investigated by the police. The young ladies in the club were all engaged in prostitution. In the end, they didn't know about it until the police investigated. It turned out that these young ladies went to the nightclub to play at night and were drugged, locked up, and forced to do this kind of thing. You have to be careful when you go to such places. Don't get cheated. Qin Yiru was completely worried that Yun Jian and the rest would go to a nightclub, which sounded like a shady place. As a mother, it was normal for Qin Yiru to be worried. No matter how powerful her daughter Yun Jian was, she would still be worried. This was the psychology of being a parent. Yes, Mom, I know, Yun Jian said with a smile. She said this so that Qin Yiru wouldn't be worried. Brother Ce. Chestnut, Xiaoya, and I want to go too. Xiao Yunju shook his head. He didn't know what a nightclub was, but when he heard that Yun Jian and his brother Ce wanted to go, he wanted to go too. Children can't go to that kind of place. There are police uncles there. If you go with them, you will soon be arrested and locked in prison. Qin Yiru deliberately tricked Xiao Yunju and then carried Xiao Yunju back from Ce. Mrs. Qin, will there be police officers coming to arrest us? Duanli was really frightened. She gulped and asked. Before she could get a reply from Qin Yiru, Duanli had already run over to grab Xiao Yunju, who had been put down by Qin Yiru. She then said to Xiao Yunju, let's not go, I'm afraid. Good. If Chestnut says I'm not going, then I'm not going. Xiao Yunju said righteously as he patted his chest. All right, you can go now. Come back early and remember to keep in touch with your phone at all times. Qin Yiru was still worried about Yun Jian, so she added. However, Qin Yiru had never been a mother who liked to interfere with her children's affairs. She had always stood behind Yun Jian and Yuni silently, and as long as she didn't interfere with her daughter and son's affairs, she would quietly care about their every word and action. Mom. Yun Jian nodded. Then the group set off for Royal Nightclub. Yuni and Qin Yu didn't go. Only Yun Jian, Ce, Shuang, and Ningxia were going. Ningxia was going to lead the way for them, but Ningxia had never been to a nightclub before. At the same time, at the entrance of Royal Nightclub, Yun Jian and the others entered one after the other. As soon as they entered, they were attracted by the noise under the dance floor. On the dance floor, a woman with a hot body was doing something that made one's imagination run wild. A bunch of men were shouting and yelling crazily. Let's book a room, it's too noisy here. Shuang suggested lazily. At the same time, he didn't have any feelings for the woman dancing crazily on the dance floor. Chapter 1227. At this moment, at the side of the dance floor, a plump old woman with a wrinkled face and an ugly complexion was sitting in front of a patterned low table. Opposite the old woman sat a cowering middle-aged man, who seemed to be discussing something. But it was obvious that the old woman's identity was higher than this cowering middle-aged man. Because on the dance floor, that hot beauty was crazily twisting her body, presenting her exposed body in front of the group of men below the dance floor. Therefore, it attracted the screams of the men below. The noisy sounds in the pool and the screams and shouts of the men made the old woman hiding in the corner and the cowering middle-aged man talk loudly about the indescribable topic without fear. The middle-aged man cowered and looked at the old woman. He was about to take the initiative to break the silence and said, "Aunt Hong, you," the old woman called Aunt Hong, who was in her 40s or 50s, didn't wait for the middle-aged man to finish speaking, and slapped the table and stood up. After Aunt Hong stood up, she pointed at the beautiful woman who was twisting her body on the dance floor to attract the attention of the men, and sneered at the middle-aged man. "Only this kind of goods. How long ago is this kind of goods? It's time to change it. No wonder our shop's business has been snatched away by the newly opened heaven on earth." Aunt Hong looked very angry. The middle-aged man opposite her was startled, and then he suddenly lowered his voice and said to Aunt Hong, "Recently our shop has a few young ladies, and they are still virgins. Aunt Hong, do you want to send them to the bosses? Only this kind of goods. Can't you find a different kind of goods?" Aunt Hong said, "Goods." Listening to her tone, she didn't treat people as people at all. But just when Aunt Hong said this, she was suddenly attracted by a slender figure who had just entered the door. The figure who had just entered the door may not be as enchanting and charming as the beautiful woman who was twisting on the dance floor, but at a glance, it could attract people. Even Aunt Hong, who was a woman, was thoroughly attracted by it at first glance. For a time, Auntie Hong didn't even have the thought to curse the middle-aged man. Her entire being seemed as if her soul had been taken away as she walked towards that delicate and pretty figure with an unbelievably exquisite face. Yun Jian, Ce, and Shuai Ying were standing at the entrance. Yun Jian agreed with Shuai Ying's suggestion to book a private room. Shuai Ying actually had other motives for coming here today. He had invited an international big shot who had just arrived in Serene City to come here, intending to cooperate on some matters. Shuai Ying was the leader of the Inhun organization and the other partners. Now that he finally had a vacation, it was only natural that he would be able to travel. However, during the holidays, he still had to deal with the things that needed to be done. Shuai Ying planned to open a private room first and settle the young madam and Ningxia inside. Then, he would ask the young master, Lin Wei, and Mo Sen to accompany him to talk to that international big shot. That was what Shuai Ying thought. That was why he called Yun Jian over so that his young master would be willing to come along. Just as Shuai Ying finished his words and got Yun Jian's tacit approval, Shuai Ying's face changed. At this moment, a very short woman, who was about 40 to 50 years old, wearing a red cheongsam, stood in front of everyone. Once Auntie Hong stood there, she glanced at Yun Jian conspiratorially before coming over with a grin and spoke in a friendly tone. Chapter 12:28. As Auntie Hong spoke, she added with a grin, as if afraid that Yun Jian would misunderstand her as having ulterior motives. At the same time, she wiggled her lipstick that was as red as a chicken's butt and continued. "Ha, it's like this. I'm the person in charge of the Royal Nightclub. You can call me Aunt Hong. I think it's your first time here to play, right? I think you are all young people. The front hall is noisy and not suitable for you. Do you want to get a private room? I'll take you there," Aunt Hong said, revealing a smile that she thought was very kind. But in her heart, she was thinking, "Follow me to the private room. It's easier to do things in the private room." Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Aunt Hong's uninvited appearance made her suspicious. But from Yun Jian's appearance, she didn't have any doubts about Aunt Hong. This made Aunt Hong think that the little fish had taken the bait. "Thank you, Aunt Hong. This is my first time here. Let's go to the private room with Aunt Hong." Ningxia was a silly child. She had never been to such an occasion before. She thought that Aunt Hong really came to help out of kindness. Okay, I'll let the waiter at the front desk lead the way for you. In order to not let Yun Jian and the others be suspicious, Aunt Hong didn't personally lead the way for Yun Jian and the others. After saying this, Aunt Hong signaled the waiter at the front desk. When Aunt Hong signaled the waiter to lead the way, her back was facing Yun Jian and the others. So when Aunt Hong winked at the waiter, Yun Jian and the others, who were standing behind Aunt Hong, didn't see it. Soon, the waiter led Yun Jian and the others to the private room. Seeing Yun Jian and the others disappear in front of her and turn the corner to the back of the dance floor, Aunt Hong's kind and smiling face instantly drooped. Aunt Hong. The middle-aged man who was talking to Aunt Hong just now came over and looked at Aunt Hong and shouted. I've already sent someone to bring her over. Send a few more people over. This little girl is definitely the best. After a few years of training, she will definitely become our royal family's #1 miss. Matchmaker revealed a strange smile. Yes. The middle-aged man responded. Then, he paused for a moment before asking Aunt Hong about the doubts in his heart. Auntie Hong, that woman and that man were holding hands when they went in. It's obvious that they are a couple. Could it be that this woman is no longer a virgin? Isn't this girl worthless if she isn't a virgin? With her looks, even if she isn't a virgin, she can still be sold for a good price. Hurry up and prepare for me. This time, I'm going to do something big. Aunt Hong kicked the middle-aged man and then whispered. The middle-aged man immediately replied, yes. Then, he ran away. After Yun Jian and the others entered the private room, Shuang begged Ce to follow him to meet the international big shot. Mo Sen and Lin Wei stood to the side and watched, their mouths twitching from time to time. At first, Ce refused to go. Shuang begged for more than 10 minutes, but to no avail. Then, Yun Jian said, go and take a look. I'll wait for you here. Yun Jian's words made Ce's ears tingle, making Ce feel inexplicably refreshed. Okay. Then, Ce immediately agreed. She put one hand in her pocket and stood up to walk out. At this moment, Shui Ying's mood was very complicated. He had been with the young master for so long, but a single word from the young mistress was more effective. Who did he offend this time? If he had anything in the future, he would ask the young mistress for help. Thinking of this, Shuang stood up from his seat and followed Ce. Then, he ran out with Lin Wei and Mo's senator just as Ce and the others left. A waiter came in and brought in a pot of free tea. When the waiter left, he didn't close the door tightly and left a small gap. Yun Jian could clearly feel that someone was sizing her and Ningxia up with narrowed eyes outside the crack. Chapter 12:29. As soon as she finished drinking, Ningxia felt dizzy. She looked at Yun Jian, only to find that Yun Jian had split into 2 figures, 3 figures. Yun Jian, why are there so many of you? Ningxia shook her head. She was dizzy, and she felt that she couldn't exert any strength. Me too. Yun Jian felt that the gaze outside the door became sharper. She wobbled for a while, and after a while, she laid down on the sofa. Ningxia saw Yun Jian lying down, and she suddenly felt scared. Then, she quickly ran to Yun Jian and shook Yun Jian hard. Yun Jian, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. What's going on? Why do I feel more and more dizzy? As soon as Ningxia said the last word, her voice stopped. Then, her head shook again, and she directly fell to the ground. Aunt Hong, who had been squatting at the door for a while, saw this. She directly pushed the door open and entered. Because she was afraid that Yun Jian and Ningxia were not unconscious, Aunt Hong rushed to Yun Jian and Ningxia and shook them. She asked nervously even though she knew the answer. Wake up, wake up. Little girl, what's wrong with you? In order to verify that Yunjian and Ningxia had completely fainted, Aunt Hong also reached out to scratch Yunjian and Ningxia's stomach and under their arms. Ordinary people were very sensitive to these two places. Aunt Hong scratched, but she didn't see any reaction from Yunjian and Ningxia. At this time, she put away her very nervous look and shouted at the door, "Come in." Immediately, two women came in and moved Yunjian and Ningxia to another place. Aunt Hong basically called women to do things, such as moving the unconscious Yunjian and Ningxia to another place. Of course, this was to not attract attention. Tick-tock, 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 the sound of water was leaking. This was a dark basement where no sunlight could be seen. In one part of the basement, there were still water droplets. These water droplets dripped down, covering a large area of the basement floor. Yunjian had already woken up. Or to put it another way, she had not fainted since she was unconscious. At this moment, Yunjian's whole body was tightly tied up with hemp rope. She looked around and could clearly tell that this was not the Royal Nightclub's territory, but a basement. However, the basement was not in the Royal Nightclub. There were many teenage girls tied up around Yunjian. At a glance, there were at least 20 of them. Ningxia was back-to-back with her back-to-back. At this time, Ningxia had not woken up. Sob, sob, sob. Not far away, a girl about Yunjian's age was sobbing and shaking. There were also girls who were frightened by the scene in front of them. At this moment, they were desperately asking, "Where is this? Have we been abducted? Then, will we die?" Woo! There were more than 20 teenage girls at the scene. Some of them were not awake, but as long as they were awake, they were crying softly. There was a girl who had been captured for a long time who didn't cry, but said in a depressed tone, "We're finished. The prettier girls who were captured before have been sold. They will sell us." When she said this, the girls around her cried even harder. Yunjian frowned when she heard the cries. She was not nervous but she was irritated by the girls' cries, so she scoffed in the next second. "Shut up, all of you." Chapter 12:30. The group of girls around her were only in their teens and were very young. They were at the prime of their youth. It was not hard to tell that the dozens of girls around them were like Yunjian and Ningxia, abducted by Auntie Hong and her cohorts in a similar way. Among the abducted girls, she was the only one who could be as calm as Yunjian and not be affected by the mourning around her. She forced herself to cry and even yelled, "Shut up, all of you." Obviously, many people around her did not know what was going on, but they were shocked by the gloomy basement in front of them. Especially when they were tied up with ropes, it was like the scene of a kidnapping in the legends. In addition, there was a girl who had been here for a long time who said that the beautiful girls who were abducted before were sold. The girls around her were even more scared. At this time, Yunjian's shout frightened the people around her. Even the girl who was sobbing just now was so scared that she forced her cries back into her throat. The surroundings quieted down, and only then did Yunjian close her eyes. She was very clear about her situation. The girls who were abducted around her were very beautiful, and the worst-looking one could be recognized immediately in a crowded street. Since this group of people dared to abduct her, then they had to pay a price. In the darkness, Yunjian's lips curved into a cold arc. Since she encountered this kind of underground hookup, then, after an unknown amount of time, the crying stopped, and the girls who were awake began to talk to each other. However, from the girls' conversation, Yunjian could still hear their deep fear. "I've been here for half a month." At this time, a girl spoke with a desperate tone. After pausing for 2 seconds, the girl's voice became slightly trembling. Her throat was hoarse, and her voice sounded like she was about to sob at any time. I was drugged, and when I woke up, I was here. The girls who were with me before, they were all sold. This is not a place for people to stay. They fed us like animals, and sold them, let a lot of men defile them. We will also be sold like that. At the end, the girl could not help but sob again. The basement was very dark, but the surrounding girls were frightened by the girl's words and began to cry again. Some of them trembled all over, and were so scared that they could not turn over and move. Yunjian slightly frowned, and in the next second, her closed eyes instantly opened. If the basement was brightly lit, the girls around her would definitely be shocked by Yunjian's piercing gaze. When Yunjian opened her eyes, the door to the basement opened abruptly. She had sensed that someone was coming. At this time, a dim yellow light flashed in, and then a fat old woman wearing a red cheongsam walked in. Then, a few well-dressed middle-aged men walked in. Just by looking at their appearance, one would think that they were successful businessmen. There were also a few strong men following behind them. The basement's light was suddenly turned on, and the people who had not seen light for a long time could not open their eyes for a while. At this time, Aunt Hong walked toward Yunjian, her butt swaying left and right. The surrounding girls who were tied up shrunk their bodies in fear. Aunt Hong brought that group of people directly to Yunjian. Then Aunt Hong suddenly stepped aside, and respectfully pointed at Yunjian to a well-dressed middle-aged man standing at the front, and said, "Look, this chick is really hard to come by in 1,000 years." Chapter 1231. Auntie Hong had already doubted whether Yunjian was still a virgin with the previous middle-aged man. However, when she was introduced to this middle-aged man who looked like a successful person, she still said the same thing. There was only one reason for this. She hoped that Yunjian could be sold for a good price. In Auntie Hong's place, she called these girls who were deceived as goods. Auntie Hong and her group did not treat these girls as human beings. To be honest, after being deceived into this place, even if they wanted to seek death, there would always be someone watching over them. The girls who were completely controlled didn't even have the right to choose death. They could only become puppets for Auntie Hong and the others to make money for the men to laugh at. This was the side of the royal nightclub that people did not know about. At the same time, it was also one of the royal nightclub's major means of earning money. Even as a woman, Auntie Hong could not help but be attracted to Yunjian, not to mention this middle-aged man. This middle-aged man's surname was Jia, and he was called Boss Jia. Boss Jia was a typical tycoon. He invested in a marine enterprise in Ning City and had contact with some big bosses overseas. Moreover, his family's assets amounted to tens of millions. In 1999, if his family had tens of millions of assets, he would be called a multimillionaire. Even if he became a multimillionaire, he would still be able to occupy a place like Ning City, not to mention Boss Jia. With Boss Jia's achievements, he could be considered as a big shot in Ning City. It was this kind of person that outsiders would never think that he was actually a regular in the royal nightclub that secretly trafficked young girls. Strictly speaking, Boss Jia's eccentricity could be considered as a pedophile. This was because he was already over 50 years old, almost 60 years old. Boss Jia dyed his hair until it was shiny, but the middle of it was bald. His whole body was full of fat, and he looked extremely ugly. Looking at her delicate and pretty face, he could see that her delicate and flawless face was exquisite to the extreme. Boss Jia's mouth was dripping with saliva. Beautiful. 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 Boss Jia used his pig trotters to wipe away the saliva flowing out of his mouth. He shouted 3 times in a row. His round eyes stared at Yunjian. At the same time, Boss Jia rubbed his hands. How is it? Boss Jia, are you satisfied? Auntie Hong threw a coquettish glance at Boss Jia and said with a smile. Satisfied. Satisfied. I'm so satisfied. Boss Jia's eyes never left Yunjian. Yunjian didn't move. The girls who were tied up saw this scene. As long as it didn't involve them, they didn't even dare to make a sound. Andi Hong, name your price. Boss Jia looked at Yunjian and rubbed his hands even harder. He couldn't wait to rush up. Aunt Hong curled her lips and said, 500,000. What? 500,000. Just a woman and you are offering 500,000 yuan. Boss Jia was shocked and then exclaimed. Hey, you've seen it for yourself. This chick is so delicate. You should know if she's worth 500,000 or not. If you don't want it, I can sell it to Mr. Yang. The boss Yang that Andi Hong mentioned was Boss Jia's sworn enemy. As soon as Andi Hong said this, Boss Jia was unwilling to be at a disadvantage. Okay. 500,000 it is. Pfft. Just as Andi Hong and Boss Jia were seriously talking about the price, a sneer was heard. At such a serious and dangerous moment, there was still someone laughing. Everyone immediately turned their heads to look. They saw that Yunjian, who was a commodity, wasn't afraid at all. She was the one who had sneered earlier. You. What are you laughing at? Andi Hong was shocked by Yunjian's strange laughter. Then, she questioned. However, she heard Yunjian reply with a smile without fear. Instead of estimating my value here, why don't you talk to me about how you want to die? As soon as Yunjian finished speaking, everyone around was stunned. Yunjian was in a disadvantageous position now. Why was she not only not afraid, but also threatening Andi Hong and Boss Jia? This time, not only Andi Hong and Boss Jia were stunned, but the group of girls who were cowering around were also dumbfounded. Especially when Yunjian scolded the girls at the beginning. At first, the girls thought that she was just annoyed. Who knew that she even dared to talk back to Andi Hong? Chapter 1232. All the girls present broke out in a cold sweat for Yunjian. Yunjian's words just now were simply courting death. Sure enough, after Yunjian said those words just now, Andi Hong and Boss Jia were both stunned. After recovering from the shock, Boss Jia still looked at Yunjian in a daze, saliva dripping from his mouth. The little beauty is still so beautiful when she's angry, heh. So charming. After saying that, Boss Jia stared at Yunjian even more insolently for 2 seconds. Then, he directly ignored Yunjian's words just now and said to Andi Hong, since I'm going to spend so much money to buy this little beauty will be mine sooner or later. Then, can you let me check the goods now? Boss Jia's words immediately made Andi Hong nod and promise, of course, Boss Jia. She's going to be yours soon. You can do whatever you want. Even if you want to do her in front of everyone, we won't object. Andi Hong's face was indeed very thick. She could say any kind of dirty words. After Andi Hong finished speaking, Boss Jia felt his lower body tighten. Then, Boss Jia laughed loudly and said, Andi Hong is still the straightforward one. Then, after saying that, Boss Jia walked towards Yunjian. At the same time, he stretched out his pair of pig trotters. Yunjian, who was tied up, looked like she couldn't move. That rope just happened to tie up Yunjian's body from top to bottom. At the same time, it just happened to tighten around her chest. In this way, Yunjian's proud figure was vividly displayed. Therefore, even Andi Hong herself was captivated by Yunjian's figure and appearance. At this moment, Boss Jia had already arrived in front of Yunjian. At the same time, his pig trotters were less than a meter away from Yunjian. Boss Jia looked at Yunjian's pair of big twin peaks and his heart itched. He really wanted to run up to her and hold her full breasts. However, when he was half a meter away from Yunjian, who had been tied up tightly, suddenly stood up. The rope that had tightly bound Yunjian was now completely loose like a kite with a broken string. Boss Jia's hand, which was still reaching out, paused at the same time. Everyone's pupils gradually tensed up from their relaxed state. You! Why did you untie the rope? The first person to scream was Aunt Hong. Auntie Hong screamed out these words. After she finished screaming, she stared at Yunjian in horror, as if she had seen a ghost. When she sent Yunjian and Ningxia here, she tied the ropes on Yunjian and Ningxia herself. Not to mention a little girl, even a boorish man wouldn't be able to break free from this rope. However, Yunjian suddenly untied the rope. This scene made Auntie Hong so scared that her entire body trembled. Not only Auntie Hong, but also Boss Jia and all the girls present were so frightened by Yunjian's action that they straightened their backs. Why did she untie the rope? When did she untie the rope? Auntie Hong. This is... Boss Jia looked at Yunjian. He was so scared that he took 2 steps back. He was just about to ask Auntie Hong what was going on. However, he saw that Yunjian had already rushed over here. You! What are you trying to do? Boss Jia was scared out of his wits. He quickly retreated. However, just as he took 2 steps back, Yunjian had already stepped on the ground with 1 foot and jumped. In the next second, she kicked out horizontally. She kicked Boss Jia's abdomen at lightning speed, sending Boss Jia flying out. He then slammed into a wall in the basement. Finally, his entire body twitched and fell to the ground. Yunjian steadied herself and curled her lips into a smile. She coldly looked at the group of people in front of her who were instantly in a mess. They were all scared silly by her kick. She immediately crossed her arms and said lazily, "Oh, right. I forgot to tell you. I'm an advanced special forces soldier in the army." When these words came out, not to mention the girls present, even Auntie Hong straightened her back and looked at Yunjian in shock. The reaction of the surrounding people was the same. They all looked at her in a daze. Chapter 1233. Other than shock, the biggest reason was that Auntie Hong and her group were underground traders, and the people they sold were living people. Under such circumstances, Auntie Hong and her group were usually most afraid of running into the police. Even if they ran into the police on the streets, Auntie Hong would usually avoid them, not to mention running into the police directly. The moment Yunjian said that she was an advanced special forces soldier, coupled with her kick that sent Mr. Jia flying. Even if Auntie Hong did not believe that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier, there was no way to explain how a teenage girl who looked weak and delicate could have such abilities. Unless it was like what she said, that she was an advanced special forces soldier, but how old was she? She was only in her teens. How could she be, you're an advanced special forces soldier? Auntie Hong pointed at Yunjian and exclaimed in disbelief. As she spoke, Auntie Hong's voice was hoarse. What do you think? Yunjian did not show any signs of fear when facing Auntie Hong and the group of tall and burly men standing behind her. On the contrary, after she said that, she walked towards Auntie Hong and her group. What are you trying to do? It was obvious that Yunjian's kick that sent Mr. Jia flying was definitely practiced, so when Auntie Hong saw Yunjian walking towards her, she led the burly men behind her and retreated a few steps. It was obvious that Yunjian's skills earlier gave Auntie Hong a sense of danger. Yunjian walked towards Auntie Hong under the agitated and shocked gazes of the girls who were still tied up. As she walked, Yunjian gently raised her hand. Auntie Hong was so scared that she thought that Yunjian was going to use some kind of weapon, so she nervously retreated 3 steps in the same second. On the other side, Yunjian stretched out her hand and gently pulled out the only shabby wooden stool in the basement. Then, she sat on it. After she sat down on the wooden stool, she reached out to tuck her excess hair behind her ear. Then, she curled her lips into a devilish smile. Actually, I originally wouldn't meddle in your business. After a pause, she suddenly raised her eyes slightly and continued, I'm not sure. But since you've invited me here and put on such a wonderful show in front of me, I'll be sorry if I don't give you a reward. Yunjian's words were flat, making it hard to tell whether she was happy or sad. However, when such calm words came out from the mouth of such a little girl, it more or less shocked everyone present. At this moment, Auntie Hong was filled with regret. She thought she had found a treasure this time, but who would have thought, bang. The door that was just closed was kicked open in the next second. The kick outside the door was full of strength. The door was kicked fiercely, and the entire door flew out. The door was even broken. Everyone present was so shocked that they were shocked. When they turned around to look, they saw a handsome man dressed in black casual clothes walking in with a frown on his face. The handsome man attracted everyone's attention as soon as he walked in. After CE entered, he frowned and looked around. Finally, he saw Yunjian sitting on the wooden stool. His frown loosened at this moment. It was only then that CE came over. The surrounding people trembled in fear from CE's aura. His action of kicking open the door was shocking and unexpected. Chapter 1234. CE's face didn't show any emotion, but Mo Sen and the other two, who were familiar with CE, were quite clear. Their young master was truly enraged this time. You. Who are you? Aunt Hong was frightened by the sudden entrance of CE and the others, and she took a few steps back. Especially when she heard CE say the word kill, Aunt Hong had an illusion that she had provoked a very frightening big shot. Old woman, you don't need to know who we are. Shuang chuckled and took the lead to walk over. His handsome face was covered by a long scar at the bottom of his neck, which greatly reduced his handsome face. Aunt Hong was so frightened that she retreated again and again. Don't talk nonsense with her, just kill this group of people. Mo Sen was already walking over. Mo Sen's legs were very slender, especially from the back. His figure and appearance were simply an existence that girls yearned for day and night. Mo Sen had just taken 2 steps over here, when the few burly men behind Aunt Hong took 2 steps back. In the next second, a sharp killing intent flashed in Mo Sen's eyes. In the next breath, in this airtight space, everyone only felt a gust of wind. When they came back to their senses, they saw that Mo Sen had already flashed past those burly men at some point in time. Everyone almost didn't notice when he made his move, and only saw those burly men suddenly spurt out a mouthful of old blood. In the next moment, the few burly men fell to the ground with their backs facing the ground. In a short while, they stopped breathing. After Mo Sen killed these people, he returned to Lin Wei's side. Lin Wei was the strongest among the 4 leaders, but he didn't make a move. That was because these people in front of him didn't even have the qualifications to make him make a move. Mo Sen stood beside Lin Wei. But he saw that Shuang had already walked over to Aunt Hong. Ah! You! You dared to kill them. How dare you! You! Aunt Hong was so scared that she couldn't form words. But Shuang was gradually approaching Aunt Hong. As Shuang approached Aunt Hong, he made tsk sounds. In the end, Shuang said to Aunt Hong, "You old woman, why did you have to capture our young madam? Do you think you can still live after capturing our young madam? Tsk. You already have half a foot in the coffin, yet you're still coming out to harm others." After saying that, Shuang gently pinched his chin with his slender hand and looked at Aunt Hong with a playful expression. Auntie Hong gradually retreated towards the group of girls. After retreating to a place where there was no escape, Aunt Hong directly knelt down in front of Shuang. "I beg you, please don't kill me. Don't kill him." When she said the last word, Auntie Hong suddenly grabbed a young girl beside her, and threw the young girl directly into Shui Ying's arms. This young girl's hands and feet were tied up, and at this moment, Auntie Hong had directly thrown her into Shui Ying's arms, causing her to be unable to stand firm. Aunt Hong's eyes narrowed. She suddenly jumped up and ran to the side towards the basement's entrance. This Auntie Hong had a bit of strength. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She hadn't noticed it before. However, Aunt Hong was destined to not be able to get out of this basement's door today. Lin Wei casually flung his hand, and everyone only saw a golden light flash past. No one saw what he had flung out. They only saw Aunt Hong, who was running towards the basement's entrance, thinking that she was about to escape from the devil's claws, suddenly freeze. In the next second, blood spurted out from her mouth and nose, and in a short while, she directly fell to the ground and didn't make a sound. Chapter 1235. Lin Wei helped Shuang kill Auntie Hong. When Auntie Hong fell to the ground, her eyes were wide open. She could not believe that she had been killed just like that. Her best years had yet to come. Her time of enjoying life had yet to come. But now, she had disappeared from this world forever. However, Auntie Hong did not feel any shame at the moment of her death. She had been a human trafficker all her life. She had abducted many young girls, causing many families to be ruined. She had also caused many young girls to be defiled by men in their 50s and 60s. In the end, they were in so much pain that they wished they were dead. There were even some who could not bear such a life. In the end, they chose to end their lives in the most miserable way possible. Auntie Hong deserved to die. She deserved to die 10,000 times. Shuang did not care about what happened to Auntie Hong. Just now, Auntie Hong had thrown a girl at Shuang. The reason was to distract Shuang. A smart person like Shuang would not have fallen for such a trick. However, the girl that Auntie Hong had thrown at him was tied up. Her feet were not steady, so she almost slipped. Shuang did not know what was going on with him. He just grabbed the girl. Originally, if Shuang encountered such a situation, even if the other party was a sexy beauty with big breasts and big buttocks, he would have directly avoided them. He did not know if it was because of Siyi's influence, but he had no interest in those sexy beauties. However, this time, the girl that Auntie Hong had thrown at him had a fragrant scent coming from her body. That scent was like mint. It was fresh and elegant. It gave people a feeling that they would unconsciously want to pull this girl into their arms. Therefore, Shuang pulled the girl into his arms. Under the dim yellow light in the basement, Shuang was able to see the girl's appearance clearly. She was a beautiful girl who looked like a doll. She was about 16 or 17 years old. Her long and narrow eyelashes fluttered up and down. Just by looking at her, people could not help but want to cherish her. Not to mention men. This was the first time Shuang had seen a girl who looked like a doll. The girl's body also had a fragrance. It was a light mint smell. The smell was very light, but it was enough to make Shuang stunned. While Shuang was still in a daze, Ce had already walked in front of Yun Jian. Although his facial expression was the same as usual, Yun Jian could feel that Ce was really angry this time. Yun Jian stood up from the wooden stool. Just as she stood up, she was pulled into Ce's embrace. Even though he knew that she would be fine, he was still worried when he found out that Yun Jian had disappeared. Xiao Jian. What should I do with you? I really want to rub you into my bone marrow and make you follow me for the rest of my life, never leaving me again. Ce caressed Yunjian's long black hair as he spoke softly. Yunjian's heart was touched. In Yunjian's previous life, she had always been alone when she went on missions. Now, Ce's words warmed her heart. She reached out and hugged Ce back. The matter here was left to Mo Sen and the other two. Ever since Ningxia was locked up here with Yunjian, she had not woken up. Of course, this was a stroke of luck because Ningxia had one less bad memory in her life. In the end, Mo Sen contacted the local police in Serene City and arrested all the human traffickers led by Auntie Hong. This group of innocent girls had been saved. Shuang, Mo Sen, and Lin Wei were on their way back to the Ning family. Shuang took 2 steps before he turned to look at the girl who had followed him all the way. The girl was holding an old cardboard box. When she saw him turn to look at her, she stopped and kept a 5-meter distance from him while looking at Shuang innocently. Shuang rubbed his forehead and turned to ask her, "What do you want?" The girl was the one who had been pulled into Shui Ying's arms just now. Chapter 1236. When the girl's words fell, Shuang almost missed a step. Shuang finally hugged Mo Sen, who was standing beside him, and steadied his footing. Cough cough. It was the first time Shuang heard such words. He choked when he swallowed and immediately coughed twice. Sure, he's willing. Mo Sen, who had been silent all this time, suddenly reached out and patted Shui Ying's back, and then said to the girl with a smile. After saying that, Mo Sen smiled evilly. It was rare for him to joke like today. After saying that, Mo Sen pulled away Shui Ying's hand that was around his shoulder, and then turned around and left with Lin Wei. Halfway through, Mo Sen also left Shuang with a sentence that people didn't understand. Don't bully a little girl. After saying that, Mo Sen smiled evilly, which was extremely inconsistent with his previous calm appearance. After smiling evilly, Mo Sen curled his lips and left with Lin Wei. Shuang, who was standing in place, simply wanted to grab Mo Sen and Lin Wei and beat them up. They actually left him behind. However, Shuang didn't dare to beat Lin Wei, let alone Mo Sen and Lin Wei had the best relationship, perhaps because their personalities were similar. Shuang dared to guarantee that if he went to beat Mo Sen, Lin Wei would definitely intervene. He felt that he had become a loner. Just as he was thinking this, Mo Sen and Lin Wei had already left quickly. Shui Ying's face darkened into a line. He turned his head and glared fiercely at the girl. It was all because of her. If it weren't for her, how could Mo Sen and Lin Wei, these two ungrateful guys, leave him behind? Shuang turned his eyes and glared fiercely at the girl. The girl was so scared by Shui Ying's glare that she shrank her thin body. Shuang looked at the girl's thin body and lowered his eyes. In the end, he still withdrew his sharp edge and turned to walk towards the Ningxia house on the main road. After taking 2 steps, the girl immediately followed. As long as Shuang stopped, the girl also stopped. She didn't seem to dare to come forward. From beginning to end, she was about 5 meters behind Shuang. In the end, Shuang touched his forehead and simply let her follow him all the way. The Royal Nightclub closed down overnight. Not only the Royal Nightclub in Serene City, but all the Royal Nightclub chains in Z Nation declared bankruptcy overnight. This incident would cause a huge uproar in Z country, especially among those big bosses who frequented nightclubs. However, no one was able to find out why the Royal Nightclub closed down. Of course, these were all things that happened later. At this moment, Yunjian and Ce had just arrived at the entrance of Ningxia. Ningxia had already been brought back to the Ning family by Ce's men. Yunjian's explanation was that Ningxia had drunk some alcohol at the Royal Nightclub and fainted because she couldn't hold her liquor. In fact, Ningxia did not know how to drink. So Ningxiao's mother helped Ningxiao back to her room to rest. Yun Jian and Si Yi stood at the gate of their house in Ningxia and looked at the stars in the sky. After a while, Mo Sen and Lin Wei came back. Not long after Mo Sen and Lin Wei entered the house, Yun Jian stood there and saw Shuang walk in with a sullen face. Behind Shuang was a 16 or 17-year-old girl. The girl was holding a cardboard box in her hands. She lowered her head and looked very shy. "You're still following me." Shuang touched his forehead and shouted somewhat impetuously, "Damn, I'm not going to care about this anymore." Shuang then entered the house. After entering the house, Shuang was reluctant to leave, so he hid behind the door and narrowed his eyes to look over. He saw the girl holding the cardboard box and looking at Yun Jian timidly. Yun Jian looked her up and down and then asked, "What's your name?" Yun Jian had seen this girl in the basement before. She was also abducted by Auntie Hong. Chapter 1237. As Si Luo spoke, she hugged the box tightly with her bony hands and lowered her head, looking a little scared. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and stared at Si Luo again. She scanned Si Luo from head to toe and pursed her lips. "Aren't you going home?" As she spoke, Yun Jian's eyes flashed with a sharp light. She seemed to have a new idea. Si Luo didn't look up after hearing Yun Jian's words. She shrank back and shook her head. "I don't have a home anymore, then are you willing to follow me?" Yun Jian quickly continued. Yun Jian's words made Si Luo look up immediately. Someone was willing to take her in. Is this real? Si Luo held the box and pushed it into her arms. Then, she stared at Yun Jian with her expressive eyes. Her voice trembled. "Can you take me in? Can you really take me in?" Si Luo looked like she couldn't believe that Yun Jian was really willing to take her in. Her eyes widened as if they could speak. Yun Jian nodded and narrowed her eyes. "Sure, but I have a condition." "I agree. I agree. As long as you can feed me and let me live, I'll do anything." Si Luo almost knelt down in front of Yun Jian in gratitude. If one were to take a closer look, they could clearly see that Si Luo's clothes were in tatters and were extremely dirty. Her face was also covered in dirt, and she looked like a little beggar. If it wasn't for her doll-like face and her dirty clothes that couldn't hide her minty scent, she really did look like a refugee who escaped from a beggar's nest. Yun Jian only narrowed her eyes slightly when she saw Si Luo. Of course, she wouldn't take anyone in for no reason. Instead, wait. An abrupt male voice interrupted what Yun Jian was about to say. Yun Jian raised her brows. She looked at Si Yi, who was standing beside her and looking at her dotingly. She turned around and saw Shuang, who had been hiding behind the door, walking back. "Young madam, ahem." Shuang coughed when he realized that he had walked out rashly. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, but Shuang continued, "Young madam, she followed me back." Yun Jian immediately understood what Shuang meant. "You want to take her in?" It was obvious that Yun Jian had taken a liking to Si Luo. Other things aside, Si Luo looked frail and weak, but Yun Jian could tell that she was a good seedling despite her frail appearance. Someone who could catch Yun Jian's eye naturally had their own strengths. Take Si Luo for example. Yun Jian was sure that if she trained her personally, a good seedling like Si Luo would definitely become a high-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries. She might even surpass Snake Lizard in time. But Shui Ying's sudden appearance was, "Yes, young madam." Shuang didn't hesitate at all. "All right." Yun Jian didn't force him. After agreeing, Yun Jian turned to look at Si Luo. She narrowed her eyes and said to Si Luo, If you feel that it's not good to follow him, you're welcome to look for me anytime. Yun Jian winked at Si Luo. It was rare for her to be so cold and arrogant. Si Luo hugged the cardboard box and shrank back, but she nodded fervently. Chapter 1238. When Yun Jian saw Shuang beckoning to Si Luo was obviously afraid of him. Or perhaps, Si Luo was afraid of the long scar on Shui Ying's neck. In spite of it, Si Luo mustered his courage and went to Shui Ying with the cardboard box. Watching Si Luo and Shuang enter Ningxia house, Yun Jian could not help smiling. What an interesting girl. No matter how interesting she is, she's not as attractive to me as my Xiao Jian. Si Yi looked at Yun Jian with squinted eyes, his hand gripping Yun Jian's hand tightly. His words made Yun Jian blush again. She patted Si Yi's playful palm lightly and turned to enter Ningxia house. Si Luo's arrival was a nuisance to Ningxia Mama as she had to prepare another room for Si Luo. It was fortunate that Ningxia house was not short of rooms. Si Luo had been standing in Ningxia house with his precious cardboard box, but when he saw that Ningxia Mama was preparing a room for him, he walked out with the cardboard box. Thank you. Don't trouble yourself, I can sleep at the bridge nearby for the night. Si Luo was about to leave the house with the cardboard box as he spoke. Yun Jian raised a brow at the sight. A certain nerve in the bottom of his heart was fiercely touched. In her past life, Yun Jian was abducted when she was young. She was abducted when she was 5. She was supposed to be a 5-year-old child who lay in her parents' arms and did not have to think about anything. However, Yun Jian only remembered that her parents in her past life had lost her when she was 5. Before she was abducted and joined in Hun group, Yun Jian had been a beggar for a period of time after she was separated from her parents. It was not an exaggeration to call her a beggar. Everyone had a past that was not glamorous. Everyone had grown up from nothing. She was only 5 years old then and had lost her parents' protection. Yun Jian went out to beg in the day and slept at the bridge or even the dog hole at night. If a kind-hearted person gave her a newspaper to warm her up in the cold night, it was already a blessing. That kind of life was simply not something a human could live through, but under the premise that one's life was not guaranteed, it was already considered very good. She had seen Si Luo's attire just now, and what Si Luo had just said. What kind of past could make a young girl who was in the middle of puberty so calmly say, I can sleep on the nearby bridge for a night? Countless teenagers who were sheltered by their parents flaunted their prowess, but who would have thought that some people who lived at the bottom of society even had problems eating enough food to survive? Yun Jian's heart skipped a beat when she saw Si Luo walking out of the house. She instinctively wanted to speak up. Unexpectedly, another male voice was faster than her. Shuang, who was standing beside Si Luo, grabbed Si Luo's hand. He did not mind that her hand was dirty. Shuang forced herself to calm down and growled at Si Luo. You are my disciple now. My disciple is sleeping at the bridgehead. If word of this gets out, where am I supposed to hide my face? Shuang did not want to reveal his identity. He grabbed Si Luo and shouted at him, not minding that Si Luo's hand was dirty. Mo Sen and Lin Wei had already gone to sleep. If the two of them were standing there, they would definitely be shocked by Shui Ying's words. Shui Ying was the infamous shameless king internationally. He represented an Hun group in all kinds of activities. Since when did he care about his face? He was even rumored to be the most shameless person in the world. And today, he even emphasized that where was he supposed to hide his face? Pfft, don't make me laugh. Chapter 1239. Si Luo's hand was held by Shuang. She looked up at Shuang from a close distance, but when she saw the long scar on Shui Ying's neck, she shrank back and lowered her head. She was afraid. This was normal. The scar on Shui Ying's neck was very deep, and it was because of this deep scar that Shui Ying's looks were greatly reduced. In terms of appearance, Shui Ying was the most handsome among the 4 leaders. Of course, even so, Shui Ying was the most handsome among the 4 leaders, but because of this scar, many beauties dared not get close to him. You don't have to stay at the bridge. From today onwards, you won't have to live the same life as before. Yun Jian's voice was heard in the next breath. As soon as Yun Jian's voice was heard, Si Luo looked up at Yun Jian gratefully. Don't look at me like that. I'm only helping you because there's something to gain. Yun Jian did not say the last part of her sentence. She, Yun Jian, was not a good person. If there was nothing to gain, to be honest, she would not help Si Luo even if he knelt down in front of her. Don't blame her for being ruthless. This was how the world worked. If you were not strong, no one would pity you. Thank you. Si Luo thanked him anyway. If one looked closely, one could even see a trace of tears in her eyes. Yun Jian nodded and did not say anything else. In the end, Ningxiao's mother prepared a room for Si Luo. Ningxiao's family was rich, so their rooms were villas with toilets in every room. It was like a hotel. Ningxiao's mother pitied Si Luo and even taught him how to run the bathwater. Yun Jian stood aside and watched as Ningxiao's mother taught Si Luo. In the end, Si Luo took a hot shower and changed into Qing Yu's clothes. Si Luo and Qing Yu were about the same height, but Si Luo was skinnier than Qing Yu. He was so skinny that only his bones were left. Although Qing Yu's clothes were a little too big for Si Luo, it was just right. When they were done, Shui Ying and the rest had already gone to bed. The next day, Yun Jian woke up early in the morning as she planned to board a large cruise ship from Ning City's harbor to the boat island. When Yun Jian woke up, Qing Yu and Si Luo were already up. When Yun Jian came downstairs, she saw Qing Yu and Si Luo chatting together. They seemed to be getting along well. Si Luo had washed her dusty body yesterday and changed into Qing Yu's clothes. Her beggar-like appearance had completely disappeared. Even Yun Jian couldn't help but take a few more glances at Si Luo. After washing up, the faint mint scent on Si Luo's body became even stronger. Her doll-like face was naturally beautiful. Even Ningxiao's mother couldn't help praising her. What a delicate little girl. In the morning, Ningxiao's mother, Qin Yiru, and Mrs. Yang made breakfast together. When Ce, Shuang and the other 2 came down, Shuang and the other 2 were so shocked by Si Luo's current appearance that they stopped in their tracks. Shuang, in particular, did not expect Si Luo to be so pretty after changing into a white dress. Ce was unfazed. No matter how pretty a girl was, she could not beat his Xiao Jian. Ce was not even in the mood to look at Si Luo. He went straight to Yun Jian and held her hand. Wow! What a pretty Jie. When Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya came down from upstairs, Xiao Yunju yelped when he saw Si Luo and wanted to run to her. At the same time, Xiao Yunju opened his arms wide like he was asking for a hug. Hello, Jie. Xiao Yunju was halfway there when he saw his elder sister, Yun Jian, standing not too far away. Xiao Yunju suddenly felt like he was lifted up. Chapter 1240. Little brat, have you eaten breakfast? Shuang lifted Xiao Yunju up in front of Yun Jian as if his life depended on it. Then, when he saw Xiao Yunju looking up at him, he spoke in a muffled voice. Xiao Yunju shook his small body, but realized that Shuang had a death grip on him. Xiao Yunju pouted and looked at Ce unwillingly. Then, he complained to Ce, Big brother Ce, Big brother Wang Er is bullying me. He won't let me down. I'm in pain. Big sister will be sad if she sees this. Xiao Yunju knew how to talk. He knew that Ce cared about Yunjian, so he purposely said this. The meaning of this sentence aside, just the mention of Big Brother Wang Er was enough to make Shui Ying's eyes darken. When he heard Xiao Yunju call him Big Brother Wang Er, Shuang had the urge to run to Yulong mainland and kill Adam. That rascal had given him the image of Big Brother Wang Er in front of Xiao Yunju. Even now, Xiao Yunju refused to change the way he addressed him. Sensing Ci's murderous glare, Shuang quickly let go of Xiao Yunju's hand. Xiao Yunju, who was let go, did not run to see Luo. Instead, he ran back and reached out to hold Duan Li's hand. Little chestnut, we can go to the beach later. Yay yay yay. Yunjian, who stood not too far away, merely smiled at the sight without losing her composure. Shuang, Amo Sen, and Lin Wei did not plan to go to the beach. They had already gone to the beach, especially Hawaii. They did not want to go there anymore. Si Luo also said that he did not want to go to the beach. To Si Luo, her previous life was worse than the lowest class of society. Now that she was suddenly asked to go on a holiday, how could she accept it? Before setting off, Yun Jian stood at the entrance. She glanced sideways into the house and saw Shuang standing not far away. Mo Sen said to Shuang in a rare teasing tone, "Didn't you say you were going to the beach?" It was rare for Mo Sen to tease someone. With this tease, Shuang was ridiculed to the point of not being able to reply. Finally, Shuang replied, "I don't want to go at the last minute." Isn't that normal? Shui Ying's words made Mo Sen smile. It's very normal. Even Lin Wei put on a fake smile and said these three words. Ning City Cruise Pier. Ningxiao's mother knew the people who worked at the cruise terminal, so she bought some better tickets for Yun Jian and the others through the back door. Ningxiao's mother did not come with them, but she got Ningxia to accompany Yun Jian and the rest to Zhou Island. Mrs. Yang's family was the only one who came along, followed by Qin Yirun, Gu Junjian, Yun Yi, Qin Yu, Xiao Yunju, and lastly, Yun Jian and Ce. There was a lot of traffic when they boarded the ship. There was a queue to be checked before boarding the ship. Zhou Island was no doubt a tourist destination, so there were a lot of people. It took more than an hour to queue up and board the ship. There were a lot of people in the queue. Ce took advantage of his height to hug Yun Jian the whole time, protecting Yun Jian in his arms. He did not let the people around them step on her or touch her body because of the crowd. When they boarded the ship, their seats were fixed. They used their tickets to secure their seats. At least, this was the case on the cruise. Yun Jian and Ce found their seats and sat down. When Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian found their tickets, they happened to see a couple sitting there. When Qin Yiru saw this, she glanced at Gu Junjian, then went up to them and said politely, "Hello, may I know if you're sitting in the wrong seat? Our seats are here." Chapter 1241. A Western-looking woman in her mid-20s who was dressed skimpily with her shoulders exposed was holding the arm of a man with a crew cut who looked like a ruffian. The man, who looked about the same age, was sitting on the seats that should have belonged to Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian. This very revealing woman was the one who yelled at Qin Yiru. Let's not talk about the woman's tone to Qin Yiru. Let's talk about the last sentence she said to Qin Yiru, "We'll be at Zhou Island soon anyway." It would take at least 45 minutes to get to Zhou Island from the pier in Ning City. This was under the condition that there was no obstruction. Zhou Island was an island in the middle of the ocean. In other words, it was a floating piece of land in the ocean. It was a small island. Zhou Island was located on a small island and was surrounded by the ocean. Moreover, Zhou Island was surrounded by the ocean. People who came here for tourism could understand the true meaning of the ocean. However, from Ning City to Zhou Island, there was a large ship carrying hundreds of people. It would take at least 45 minutes to sail slowly from Ning City to Zhou Island. If there was an unexpected situation on the way, it would take at least an hour to sail. Even so, there were still a lot of tourists coming. As a result, there were not enough ships sailing between Ning City's pier and Zhou Island. Therefore, there was a situation where people sat according to their seats. Some people could not get a seat and could only stand all the way. Ningxia Mama had friends at Ning City's pier, so it was not surprising that she could get a seat. Obviously, these two young people did not get a seat, so they shamelessly occupied Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's seats. This woman's words made Qin Yiru frown. Although Qin Yiru did not like to look for trouble, she was not the kind of person who would be led by the nose by others and not dare to say half a word. Therefore, when Qin Yiru heard this woman's words, she refuted on the spot, "This beautiful woman, this seat was reserved when we bought the ticket, so please make way." Qin Yiru also raised her voice. After all, to Qin Yiru, she was weak, but when something that should have belonged to her was taken away by someone else and the other party had no kinship with her, she would still ask for it back. "I say, old woman, are you crazy? Will we die if we sit on this seat?" The woman was still aggressive. The most infuriating thing was that as soon as the woman's aggressive words fell, the man sitting next to the woman peeled a grape and personally fed it to the woman. The man glared at Qin Yiru and then comforted the woman, "Honey, don't mind them. I think this woman is going through menopause. You guys." Qin Yiru listened as the couple in front of her became more and more ridiculous. As long as she was a human, she would definitely get angry. Gu Junjian just held Qin Yiru's hand and wanted to reason with them, but a beautiful hand held Qin Yiru down first. Yun Jian took 2 steps towards them and held Qin Yiru's hand. Then, she said to Gu Junjian, "Dad, bring Mom to our seat first." Yun Jian had already changed her way of addressing Gu Junjian as Dad. When Gu Junjian heard Yun Jian's words, he decisively pulled Qin Yiru's hand and walked towards Yun Jian and Siyi's seat. At this moment, Yun Jian crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at the young couple. She didn't say anything. She just stared at the young couple with her eyes. The young couple originally acted as if nothing had happened and they were minding their own business. However, after being stared at by Yun Jian for a long time, the woman began to panic and scold Yun Jian, "Are you crazy? What are you looking at?" Just as the woman said this, Yun Jian suddenly strode forward. Under the shocked gazes of the surrounding passengers, she suddenly reached out and grabbed the woman's hair. Before the woman could react, she dragged her hair down from her seat and threw her far away. The woman was not prepared at all and was directly smashed to the ground, rolling a circle on the ground. However, Yun Jian suddenly clapped her hands and stepped on the woman's seat. Then, she said to the man. Chapter 1242. The man was shocked by Yun Jian's sudden action of pulling the woman out of her seat and throwing her to the ground. By the time he came back to his senses, Yun Jian had already stepped on the woman's seat and spoke to him in a cold tone. The man gulped. He didn't immediately stand up and give up his seat, nor did he immediately help his girlfriend who was thrown to the ground by Yun Jian. Instead, he was fascinated by Yun Jian's beautiful and delicate face. He didn't notice it earlier, but now the man saw it. The couple actually had such a delicate daughter. Wasn't this girl too beautiful? He was almost mesmerized. The man swallowed hard. Today, Yun Jian was wearing a very short black top, and this black top was form-fitting. It wrapped around Yun Jian's full upper body incisively and vividly. The neckline was a little low, and Yun Jian's breasts were very full. At this moment, they were wrapped in a tight shirt, coupled with her slender waist and beautiful appearance. As long as it was a man, he would be attracted to her. The man didn't care about his girlfriend at all. He was completely attracted to Yunjian, and he couldn't even speak at this moment. Even after hearing Yunjian's threatening words, the man still had an indescribable desire to tease Yunjian. The man didn't care about his girlfriend at all. He even flipped his crew cut very handsomely and was about to look at Yunjian with an expression that he thought was charming to death. At this moment, the deck of the ship suddenly shook twice. The entire large cruise ship suddenly shook violently twice, as if it had encountered a big wave. The entire ship swayed. With this shake, the man couldn't stand still. After being swayed back and forth, he suddenly realized that Yunjian was standing in front of him, and that pair of full breasts were swaying in front of him. The man suddenly had an idea. He suddenly wanted to use the force of the ship's shaking to pretend that he had accidentally jumped into Yunjian's chest. The man thought so. In the next moment, he planned to jump into Yunjian's arms as if he was using the rocking force of the boat. Just as the man was about to do so, he had already pounced on Yunjian. But when he was 30 centimeters away from Yunjian, he saw a large palm suddenly appear on Yunjian's slender waist. The large hand grabbed Yunjian's slender waist and pulled Yunjian over. The man was stunned, but at this moment, he had already fallen towards the place where Yunjian was just now. If he continued to fall, he might just fall over. However, it was unrealistic for him to fall because when the man fell towards Yunjian's position, a slender thigh entered his sight. She lifted her slender leg from the ground and kicked the man's abdomen in a way that couldn't be seen by the naked eye. The man saw with his own eyes that the slender leg kicked his abdomen, and then his body flew out dozens of meters away. At this moment, the man felt that the breakfast he had eaten this morning was about to be kicked out of his mouth. The moment the man was sent flying, he saw that in the distance, the person who had kicked his slender leg was holding onto the girl he had tried to get close to, but couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. The people standing around the cruise ship were frightened by Ci's actions. Everyone looked up and saw Ci's dark face. He hugged Yunjian, and his sharp eyes looked as if he wanted to kill the man. Chapter 1243. It was rare for Ce to get angry. Ever since he met Yunjian, however, the number of times he lost his temper had gradually increased. Outside of society, there would always be some people who thought they were very powerful, and then they would point fingers at others. It was also men who wanted to hook up with pretty girls when they saw them. Most girls who were hooked up with would be seduced by a few compliments. Of course, it was impossible for something like this to happen to Yunjian. Ce was ruthless and the man was about to vomit the food in his stomach from Ce's kick. Ce looked away and back at Yunjian. "Don't let me see you again." Scram. Ce spat softly. His tone was cold but his gaze was now on Yunjian. He was speaking to the man just now but his gaze on Yunjian was filled with indulgence. The man could not get up for a long time, dawdling on the floor for a while before he finally got up reluctantly. Oddly enough, the man had just gotten up from the floor and was about to run over to the person in charge of the cruise ship to seek justice for him and blackmail Ce. The painful kick just now was not a waste of his effort. However, once the man got up, he did not feel any discomfort coming from him. How was that possible? How painful was Ce's kick just now? It was so painful that he could barely stand up. Why was he not feeling any discomfort after he got up? While the man frowned, wondering what had happened to him, Ce had already pulled Yunjian to the seat that was occupied by the man and woman just now. His kick could not have hurt the man, of course. Ce did not want to get into any trouble and delay the trip's progress since they were going out to have fun. His world with Xiao Jian had yet to begin. Yunjian was unaware of Ce's thoughts. She was already sitting with Ce on the seat that was occupied by the man and woman just now. The ship was still sailing. Apart from the last jolt, the ship didn't sway again. The journey was very smooth. When they finally arrived at the island, it was already 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. In the summer, the sun was already high in the sky at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. After they got off the boat, Ningxiaoyi led the team to the beach near the island. The beach of the boat island was very large. Looking from the edge of the beach, the entire beach was filled with yellow sand and rocks. It was July, and the weather was getting hotter and hotter. The 2 months of summer vacation were undoubtedly the hottest period of the year in Zhe province. When they arrived at the beach, Ningxia accompanied Qin Yu and Yun Jian to the girls' changing room. Qin Yiru and Mrs. Yang went to the changing room together. Before coming to the beach, Ningxiao's mother had already prepared swimsuits for the ladies. Ningxiao's mother was very polite. Ningxiao's mother had also helped to prepare swimsuits for the men. However, most men would only wear underwear when they went to the beach. Of course, the underwear here were not briefs but boxers. There were changing rooms for men and women set up near the sea. Qin Yu was currently pushing Yun Jian into the changing room excitedly. Chapter 1244. The black swimsuit that was shoved into Yun Jian's arms was not revealing. She would not be exposed in it, and the important parts would not be overly exposed to others. In spite of that, the black swimsuit showcased a girl's figure to its fullest. Even the bumpy parts could be completely displayed. Yun Jian could feel it when she held the swimsuit in her hands. Yun Jian could not help blushing. It was not that Yun Jian had never worn a swimsuit before, but be it in her past life or this life, she had never worn something that exposed her figure completely and exposed her important parts, let alone a swimsuit. Yun Jian was a famous secret agent in her past life, but as a female secret agent, she had never relied on seduction to win. Why was it that some people would think of bad things when they heard the word secret agent, especially female secret agents? Some people would even imagine female secret agents who relied on their bodies to win. All these did not exist for Yun Jian. In her past life, she had killed many internationally renowned male assassins who were known for their abilities. In slaying God's world, seduction did not exist. What was there to ask? There was only one answer: she did not need nor did she have to seduce anyone. Her ability was enough for her to kill anyone in a second. Therefore, Yun Jian's cheeks flushed when she saw the top that was as short as a bra and the swimming trunks that barely covered 1/5 of her thighs. It was mainly for her to wear this in front of him. Hurry up and change, Sister Jian. Heh, the color really suits you. I've never seen you in a swimsuit before. You'll have to satisfy me today. Qin Yu urged again with a half-smile in her voice. Holding the black swimsuit in her hand, she changed into it eventually. When Yun Jian took off her top, Qin Yu almost screamed when she saw Yun Jian's perfect figure. After holding it in for a while, Qin Yu covered her mouth and screamed at Yun Jian like a little girl, "Young master, you're the one who's going to die." Wow! You have such a great figure, Sister Jian. I've eaten a lot these days, I'm getting a little fat now. As Qin Yu spoke, she rubbed her belly. Yun Jian smiled and stroked Qin Yu's hair, saying, "What are you waiting for?" Oh. Qin Yu changed into the pink swimsuit that Ningxiao's mother had prepared for her. Qin Yu's figure was not as curvy as Yun Jian's, nor was she like Yun Jian, who was thin and voluptuous in the right places. In spite of it, Qin Yu's figure. Ce and the men who were waiting by the door had already changed into their swimsuits. Of course, Ce did not take off his shirt. He wore a pair of knee-length pants that went into the water and a black casual top. He did not like exposing himself in front of others, so he never took off his upper body or his clothes in front of others. Standing where they were for a while, Ce was surrounded by men who had taken off their top, some of them even trying to show off their toned muscles. There were already a number of girls who were sizing Ce up, but Ce ignored them. It was then that a slender figure walked out from the girls' changing room. She had changed into a pure black swimsuit and short swimming trunks without the slim-fitting top. A pair of fair, flawless, straight, and beautiful thighs were the first to appear before everyone. Ce tensed up the moment he saw the pair of fair legs. Chapter 12:45. Yunjian's figure was tall and slender. The moment she stepped out, the men around her studied her from head to toe. Yunjian's swimsuit would not be exposed at all, but it was similar to tights. It gave people endless room for imagination and at the same time showcased her figure to the fullest. Sister Jian is so pretty. Qing Yu stepped out as well. She had changed into a pink swimsuit that was brighter and more revealing than Yunjian's. In spite of it, pink looked more girly. Qing Yu called out from behind Yunjian. It was a family meeting up with a friend's family to go on a trip together. To put it bluntly, they were out to relax, so there was no need to be so restrained. Yunjian, who was looking into Ce's eyes, lifted her head slightly before lowering it again. For some reason, she could keep a straight face in front of others, but in front of Ce, she felt like she had to consider her every move carefully. It was rare for Ce to be stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses and went to Yunjian. He was the only one who could appreciate her beauty. Ce pulled Yunjian's hand in front of everyone and headed to a spot with more rocks by the beach. Qin Yiru had just come out of the girls' changing room. When she saw Ce pulling Yunjian to the beach, she asked, "Ae, where are you taking Xiaojian?" "Walking around." Ce answered softly. Without turning around, he pulled Yunjian to the spot with more rocks by the beach. These two kids are getting more and more compatible. Gu Junjian, who stood beside Qin Yiru, could not help nodding as he watched Yunjian and Ce's backs before he told Qin Yiru. Yunjian was not particularly tall, just a little over 1.6 meters. In spite of it, Yunjian's height, coupled with her pretty face and body proportions, were just right. Ce was 1.85 meters tall. Standing beside Ce, Yunjian felt like a little bird leaning on him. Yunjian's head could only reach above Ce's shoulder. In spite of it, the two of them gave the feeling that they were meant to be together. They were a perfect match. Ce had already pulled Yunjian far away. Qin Yiru and the others who stood where they were did not follow them. Children were grown up. Just like little birds, they should have their own sky. Qin Yiru was very gratified. On the other side, Ce had already brought Yunjian to a spot with more rocks by the beach. Ce had just pulled Yunjian over when he took off his jacket and personally put it on Yunjian. "You're wearing so little. Your stomach is showing. Be careful not to catch a cold," Ce said as he put his jacket on Yunjian. He even buttoned up the jacket that he had put on for Yunjian. Yunjian was speechless. The temperature was at least 37 degrees Celsius. If it was noon and the sun was shining brightly, the temperature would soar to 40 degrees Celsius. In such a hot weather, some people would even want to take off their clothes to cool off. However, what did Ce say? He said, "Be careful not to catch a cold." The meaning of his words was too obvious. Just as Ce buttoned up the men's jacket that Yunjian was wearing with his long fingers, a middle-aged man among the many small yachts docked not far away from the rocky shore suddenly came over to them and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry." Chapter 12:46. The middle-aged man who suddenly walked over was wearing casual clothes and a pair of loose, grayish-brown pants that reached his knees. He stumbled as he walked, as though his legs weren't very nimble. The middle-aged man's arrival interrupted CE's actions. Although the middle-aged man was a little embarrassed, he still spoke boldly in order to attract business. It's like this. My surname is Hang. You can call me Master Hang. I've been sailing in this area for decades. I have a boat here that can seat 10 people. We already have 8 guests here. If the two of you come together and form a boat, I can give you guys a discount for forming a team. So, young lady, young man, are you interested? This middle-aged man was also known as Master Hang. Master Hang was currently giving a brief introduction to Yunjian and CE. There were all sorts of activities along the beach, so there were many people who came to attract business. Some people's jobs were like this. If they didn't attract enough tourists, they wouldn't be able to make a living. Hence, it was reasonable for them to be thick-skinned. Yunjian narrowed her eyes when she heard Master Hang's words. CE didn't look at Master Hang. Instead, he reached out and patted Yunjian's head affectionately. Then he said in his deep, magnetic voice, "Do you want to go?" He was naturally asking if they wanted to take the yacht. Even Master Hang, who was standing a distance away, couldn't help but smile when he saw CE's affectionate gaze. Okay. Yunjian agreed. At the same time, she reached out to pull CE up and put on the jacket that was used to cover her swimsuit. 2 people. When CE saw this, he reached out and pulled Yunjian's small hand over to Master Hang with a smile. Okay. Master Hang's words carried a strong local accent, but his words could still be heard clearly. As Master Hang spoke, he held a life jacket in his hand. When he led the way back to the yacht, Master Hang couldn't help but praise CE. Young man, you have a bright future ahead of you. Ha! The meaning behind his words was self-evident. CE smiled. He held Yunjian's small hand and followed behind them. Master Hang brought CE and Yunjian to the yacht. There were a few people who were about the same age as Yunjian and CE. When they saw Yunjian and CE, they greeted them. They were about the same age as Yunjian and CE. These young people looked quite friendly. It was no wonder. After all, CE and Yunjian had joined them. Since there were more peoples, of course. My name is Lin Hui. Nice to meet you. A girl greeted Yunjian and CE in a friendly manner. Yunjian nodded. CE didn't reply. Seeing this, the group of people who had teamed up with Yunjian and CE didn't get angry. The group of people was very friendly. After all, not everyone would show their emotions on their faces. Put on your life jackets first. Master Hang brought over 10 orange life jackets and handed them to everyone. Although there weren't any people of the same age as Yunjian and CE who were hostile to each other, they would compare themselves to each other. However, when people of the same age went out with people of the same age, they always liked to compare who was better. They even liked to say something professional to show that they were knowledgeable. How do we put on the life jackets? A girl asked. She couldn't put on the life jackets after a long time. Chapter 1247. The one who spoke was a good-looking young man. As he spoke, he lowered his head and fastened his life jacket. While fastening the life jacket, the young man couldn't stop bragging. Back then, my uncle was a famous yachting expert. He even participated in some yachting competition. He even won the first prize. As he spoke, the young man paused and bragged even more. When I was 16, I went to stay at my uncle's house for a period of time during summer vacation. At that time, my uncle even taught me how to drive a yacht. The operation was quite simple. After learning for a day, I could drive a yacht on my own. The young man's bragging tone was very unpleasant. It was very obvious that Lin Hui and the others who were with the young man had heard him bragging more than once. The young man's ultimate goal in bragging was to see the astonishment and shock on Yunjian and Siyi's faces. It was just like bragging and then seeing the astonishment and shock on Yunjian and Siyi's faces was to fuel the young man's vanity. The young man didn't have any other intentions. He just wanted to see the astonishment and shock on their faces when they found out about his strength. Unfortunately, he didn't see any astonishment or shock on Yunjian and Siyi's faces. On the contrary, Yunjian and Siyi's expressions were very normal. The young man, on the other hand, paused his hand that was still fastening his life jacket. He was a little surprised that they were not as shocked as he had expected when they heard how awesome he was. Yunjian and Siyi had already skillfully put on their life jackets. In just a few seconds, they had fastened their life jackets. Even Master Hang was stunned by Yunjian and Siyi's skillful movements, let alone the people around them. Ahem. Let's get on the boat after fastening your life jackets. In order to ease the awkward atmosphere, Master Hang deliberately pulled on the rope tied to the bow of the boat. The young man smiled awkwardly and helped the others put on their life jackets. Yunjian and Siyi were the first to get on the boat. By the time Lin Hui and the young man got on the boat, Yunjian and Siyi were already sitting on the side of the boat. When the other young people got on the boat, another boy beside the young man who had been bragging said, "Yushu, you said you learned how to drive a yacht during the summer vacation. I'll have to trouble Master Hang to drive it for you later." The young man who had been bragging in front of everyone was called Xiong Yushu. Xiong Yushu wanted to prove his ability from the beginning. Now that the other boy who came with him started cooperating, Xiong Yushu immediately said, "Hey, I didn't. I've learned how to drive a yacht, but mine's uncle's way." Xiong Yushu, Yushu's san the boats and the boat, the boat, the boat, and the boat, the boat, the boat, the boat, the boat, the boat, the boats, the boat. The boat island was very big. It was impossible to walk the entire boat island in a day's time. Therefore, it was not a bad choice to spend a few dozen yuan to take a boat around the boat island. Sitting beside Ce, Yunjian enjoyed the thrill of being on the yacht and sailing at high speed on the sea with her eyes closed. At this moment, they had already sailed half a lap around the boat island. At this moment, Master Hang, who was sailing, suddenly clutched his chest. In the next second, he felt a sharp pain in his heart. The hand that was holding the steering wheel suddenly loosened. Chapter 1248. Lin Hui was the first to notice that Master Hang had fainted. Originally, Yunjian and Ce were on their backs while the others were on their backs. After Master Hang fell to the ground, Lin Hui immediately screamed when she noticed. Yunjian and Ce had already noticed when Master Hang fell to the ground. As for the others, they also reacted after Lin Hui screamed. What happened to Master Hang? Why did he faint? That was the first thought that appeared in everyone's mind. Because this happened so suddenly, no one had time to react, so everyone was dumbfounded. Yacht. Who knows how to drive a yacht? Hurry up and send him to the beach. Will Master Hang? One of the boys started shouting in panic. After all, they were already halfway around the island and it would take at least 10 to 20 minutes to get back. Master Hang had suddenly fainted, and no one present knew what had happened. The best thing to do now was to quickly send him back to the beach where they first came out and call for help. But the problem now was, who would drive the yacht after Master Hang fainted? Moreover, Master Hang had fainted, so no one dared to touch him. What if something happened to him again? What should they do? Who would take responsibility? Yushu, hurry up. Didn't you learn how to drive a yacht from your uncle during the summer vacation? Hurry up and drive the yacht back to the beach. If this drags on, someone will die. The boy who helped Xiong Yushu brag earlier said to Xiong Yushu. Because he had never encountered something like this before, when the boy spoke, his voice was hoarse and trembling. I don't know where to go. I'm not familiar with this place either. Xiong Yushu's boastful attitude was gone. He began to tremble, and even his footsteps were hesitant to drive the yacht. It was one thing to brag earlier, but now that it was a critical moment, he was afraid. After all, when he drove the yacht, he was alone. Now, he had to carry so many people, and there was also a person who could die at any time. He was afraid. Yushu, what are you waiting for? You're the only one here who knows how to sail a yacht. If you don't help us, the boy urged again. It wasn't a good idea for the yacht to stay here forever. If it stayed here for too long, the yacht might sink. Everyone became more and more afraid. Not only were they worried about Master Hang, but they were also worried about their own safety. However, just as these people were so scared that they couldn't move, they didn't know what to do next. A clear female voice was heard. I'll drive the yacht. Just as he finished speaking, Yun Jian had already turned sideways and sat in the driver's seat of the yacht. Yun Jian's back was facing the crowd. She said to the panicked people standing behind her, he has a myocardial infarction. Try not to touch him. Yun Jian's words were not a question, but a statement. After saying that, she started the engine of the yacht under everyone's surprised and stunned expressions and pushed the yacht to the maximum speed. How did you know he had a myocardial infarction? Did you study medicine? And you know how to drive a yacht? Lin Hui asked in surprise. Yun Jian didn't answer Lin Hui directly. Instead, she said to the crowd, hold tight. As soon as she finished speaking, Yun Jian released the clutch. Chapter 1249. Only the sound of wind blowing could be heard from the side of their ears. Everyone grasped the handle tightly, and they were all dumbfounded. Yun Jian's yacht was sailing at an extremely fast speed. Just this speed alone was enough to make everyone turn pale. If someone didn't hold on to the railing tightly, they would probably have been blown off by the wind. Her speed was simply unbelievably fast. Oh my God! This isn't something a newbie can operate. Even my uncle's speedboat isn't as fast as she is today. My uncle has been sailing a yacht for almost 20 years. Xiong Yushu was scared half to death. He quickly grabbed onto the railing tightly and spoke in a terrified tone. As soon as Xiong Yushu finished speaking, the young people standing around, including Lin Hui, all showed a horrified expression. Previously, Xiong Yushu had bragged about how amazing his uncle was. But now, this girl who had boarded the yacht with them and hadn't spoken much from the start actually had such advanced yacht driving skills. Even Xiong Yushu couldn't help but complain that his uncle, whom he admired the most, wasn't as fast as Yun Jian today. How amazing must she be to be able to force Xiong Yushu to say something like this? The sea breeze roared as Ce stood beside Yun Jian. He didn't do anything else. Even in this open-air yacht, he didn't reach out to hold on to the railing and was able to stabilize his body. A journey that would normally take 10 to 20 minutes was forcibly shortened to 5 minutes by Yun Jian. Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the rest were completely dumbfounded. Seeing such a situation, everyone present was stunned. It wasn't for anything else but Yun Jian's frightening ability. She actually knows how to sail a yacht. How old is she? Just as they were thinking this, Yun Jian's low voice was heard. Hold on tight. After Yun Jian finished speaking, the few people on the yacht used both hands to hold on to the railing. In the next second, they felt Yun Jian driving the yacht towards the shore where there was no water. Ah! We'll capsize like this. Lin Hui's face was pale with fright. She gripped the railing tightly and closed her eyes. Just like Lin Hui, the others didn't look any better. At this moment, all of them had their eyes tightly shut. They were so scared that their nerves were stretched taut. When everyone heard Yun Jian's words, they grabbed the railing of the yacht tightly. Bang! In the next second, the yacht suddenly rushed ashore. Because of the impact of the seawater, coupled with the strong inertia, it was very strong. Therefore, in the next moment, when the yacht hit the shore, it hit the shore hard before stopping steadily. Actually, the bumpiness of the yacht wasn't that bad. At least Master Heng, who was lying on the boat, did not sway at all. The yacht was docked steadily. Obviously, Master Heng was not driving the yacht alone. There were many friends of Master Heng around. When they saw Yun Jian driving the yacht back to the shore, several other friends and colleagues of Master Heng ran over barefoot. What's wrong? What's wrong? The group of people were noisy. When they saw Master Heng lying on the boat, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. For a moment, they didn't know what to do. A middle-aged uncle even reached out to pull Master Heng up from the ground and carry him to the hospital. At this moment, everyone saw the beautiful girl in front of them come out from the driver's seat. She calmly stopped the man's actions. Don't touch him. The middle-aged uncle who was about to reach out his hand was stunned for a moment. He really didn't continue to reach out. Chapter 1250. The person who walked over did not care about anything else at all. He came over and criticized Yun Jian. He even looked unhurried. It did not look like he was doing it for Master Heng's sake. Instead, he looked like he was gloating. Moreover, this person walked over and looked at Yun Jian slowly. He looked like he could not wait to see something happen to Master Heng. Moreover, when he spoke to Yun Jian, this person's tone was very bad. However, this person deliberately said that it was for Master Heng's sake, causing the surrounding people to really think that Yun Jian was deliberately trying to harm Master Heng. Hence, the surrounding people started to criticize Yun Jian. Young lady, what's wrong with you? Are you hoping that something happens to our Master Heng? That's right. Our Master Heng is such a good person. This young lady is actually so vicious. Come, come. Hurry up and carry Master Heng to the hospital for a checkup. Master Heng's colleagues began to criticize Yun Jian. Some people even said that Yun Jian was vicious. The words were spoken in a split second. Narrowing her eyes, Yun Jian's lips curled into a cold smirk. After sneering, Yun Jian continued, he has a myocardial infarction. Call an ambulance immediately. You are not medical staff. After a myocardial infarction, if you are not rescued in time, the patient will often die within 2 hours. Don't move or help the patient walk. Otherwise, his condition will only worsen faster. If something happens, none of you can bear the responsibility. Yun Jian's cold words were quickly heard. Then, she successfully stopped the group of people who wanted to reach out to touch Master Heng. Yes, Yun Jian was right. If something happened while moving or helping the patient walk, no one could bear the responsibility. I'll call the doctor. Someone quickly ran to the hospital near the beach. Fortunately, it was not far from the hospital. After the doctor returned and completed a series of safety measures, he finally sent Master Heng safely to the hospital. Only then did the doctor wave his hand to wipe off the cold sweat on his body. Seeing that the medical staff had already escorted Master Heng to his hospital, the doctor wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and said to everyone, "Phew, as long as he's sent to the hospital on time, there won't be any major problems. The patient's condition is very serious." Fortunately, you called us over and didn't reach out to help him or touch his body. Otherwise, he might have died on the spot. Even this doctor let out a soft sigh of relief, let alone the others. Especially the colleague of Master Heng who had scolded Yun Jian with exaggerated words just now. Although that person was unreasonable, he didn't want Master Heng to die at all, nor did he dare to do so. After hearing the doctor's words, the man still looked at the doctor in disbelief as he asked in a trembling tone, Doctor, is it true that old Heng couldn't be moved just now? It was obvious that this person did not know anything about medicine. The doctor glanced at this person and said, That's right. In layman's terms, if you touch him, it's very likely that the patient who is in the middle of a myocardial infarction will die on the spot. In that case, the young lady really knows medicine. At this moment, someone looked at Yun Jian with a slightly surprised gaze. At this moment, everyone's gaze shifted to Yun Jian. When they saw that Yun Jian was only 16 or 17 years old and wasn't even an adult, everyone was shocked and frightened. Chapter 1251. Everyone was scared out of their wits. That was a human life. If it wasn't for Yun Jian, perhaps Master Heng would have already. At the thought of this, everyone shuddered violently. Without a doubt, what happened just now had a huge impact on everyone present. Even this group of old masters were scared half to death, not to mention Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the other youngsters. At this moment, the group of youngsters led by Lin Hui were all in a daze. Their expressions were no different from being petrified. Their entire bodies were frozen on the spot, unable to move. Young lady, it's all thanks to you just now. When the doctor found out that it was Yun Jian who stopped the masters from attacking Master Heng, saving him from the ordeal, he thanked Yun Jian on Master Heng's behalf. You don't have to thank me. It's just a small matter. Yun Jian said calmly. After that, she turned around and left with Ce. Hey, can the two of you wait? Xiong Yushu only caught up after Yun Jian and Ce had walked quite a distance away. He looked at Ce, then looked at Yun Jian. Then, he said to Yun Jian in a worshipful tone, You're so good at driving a yacht. I don't have any other intentions. I just want to know where you learned it from. Where did you learn to drive a yacht so well? Whether it was Master Heng, Xiong Yushu, or Lin Hui, they were all just passers-by on a journey. Everyone had their own living space and world. As long as they returned to their own living space or world, they would never meet these passers-by again. If they were fated to meet a passerby on a journey, it wasn't impossible for them to help them. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled. Ce could feel that Xiong Yushu wasn't interested in Yun Jian. He only wanted to ask about Yun Jian's strength. Therefore, other than telling Yun Jian and Xiong Yushu not to get too close, he didn't stop them and just stood quietly at the side. However, he saw Yun Jian curl her lips slightly and smile at Xiong Yushu. After a 2-second pause, Yun Jian spoke faintly and said in a joking tone, Self-taught, self-taught. After that, Yun Jian reached out and took Ce's hand. Then, she pulled Ce towards where Qin Yiru and the others were. Xiong Yushu stood where he was, watching Yun Jian's receding figure in a daze for a few seconds. After a while, Xiong Yushu said, Isn't she a genius? This time, Xiong Yushu really. His uncle had been learning how to sail for 20 years, but he still couldn't beat a teenage girl. Of course, of course, of course. At that moment, Xiong Yushu, of Yun Jian, of his mind. That was the worship of the strong. Yun Jian dragged Ce's hand back to the shallow sea area where Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were. The shallow sea area by the sea was a sacred place for children to play. Because the sea was shallow, even if the children went into the water, the adults would watch from the side, not let the children fall into the water. It could be said that it was a safe and fun place. Yun Jian, who was dragging Siyi's hand, walked back to the beach like a teenage girl. From afar, she saw Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya lying on the sand on the beach. They were holding plastic cups in one hand and squatting on the ground. Shoo, don't talk. Otherwise, the little crabs won't come out. Xiao Yunju was like a little adult as he took charge of the order. Duanli and Duanya also started to shush each other. Yun Jian dragged Ce over. Xiao Yunju raised his head and was about to say something when he saw Yun Jian dragging Ce over. Xiao Yunju had just found a little crab's hole. However, when he saw Yun Jian and Ce, he immediately stepped on the little crab's hole. The poor little crab's hole was blocked by Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju was already running over with Duanli and Duanya. At the same time, he said coquettishly, "Sister, brother Ce." Xiao Yunju tactfully rushed into Ce's arms. Duanli and Duanya, on the other hand, rushed into Yun Jian's arms. Yun Jian reached out to ruffle their hair. Seeing such a harmonious scene, her words softened. "Did you have fun?" "Yes, yes. This is the first time I've been to the beach. Sister, we're all so happy." Duanli held Yun Jian's hand and said excitedly. "Hee, brother Ce, can you take us to eat ice cream? We're so thirsty." Xiao Yunju shook Ce's hand and said coquettishly. "Okay." Ce immediately agreed. After informing Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian, Yun Jian and Ce each held Duanli and Duanya's hands and walked to a nearby ice cream shop. This ice cream shop was famous for being expensive, but it was also the only ice cream shop within a radius of 8 miles. When Yun Jian and Ce brought Xiao Yunju and the other two into the shop and sat down, suddenly, another group of people entered the shop. Yun Jian didn't look carefully. However, she heard someone suddenly shout at her. "Hey, it's you guys. What a coincidence." Chapter 1252. Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the others didn't expect to meet Yun Jian and Ce again at the ice cream shop. Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the others were shocked by Yun Jian's superb yachting skills and her proficient medical knowledge. Now, they even treated Yun Jian as their idol. Xiong Yushu felt that he wanted to pretend to be amazing in front of Yun Jian and Ce, but he felt embarrassed when he thought about it now. But at this moment, the admiration in her heart was greater than the feeling of embarrassment. Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the others quickly walked over and stood in front of Yun Jian and Ce. Lin Hui put her hands behind her back and smiled at Yun Jian playfully. Then, she said, "Are you here for ice cream too? Do you mind sharing a table?" Lin Hui said as she glanced at Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya. "Wow, what a cute little brother and little sister." Lin Hui said as she squatted down to look at Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya. "Okay." Yun Jian didn't refuse. This was because she saw that Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya seemed very curious when they saw Lin Hui and the others. It wasn't bad to let Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya see more people and the world. Then we won't stand on ceremony, haha. Lin Hui said as she took the lead and sat down. After chatting for a while, they found out that Lin Hui's family was in the north. She, Xiong Yushu, and the others all came from the north. Xiong Yushu's uncle was from the south. When Xiong Yushu was 16, he came to the south for a summer vacation and learned how to sail at his uncle's house. At this point, the ice cream that everyone had ordered was served. The ice cream in this shop was very big, but the price was very expensive. Obviously, since Lin Hui and the others came to the shop, it meant that their family background wasn't bad. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come all the way from the north for a vacation. The ice cream here was eaten with a spoon. Once, she accidentally got some ice cream on the side of her mouth when she scooped it into her mouth with the spoon. Ce didn't say anything. When he saw it, he immediately reached out and gently wiped the ice cream off Yunjian's mouth. This action warmed the hearts of Lin Hui and the others. Even Lin Hui couldn't help but say, "You two are so loving. And from the first time I saw the two of you, I felt that the two of you were very compatible." Lin Hui just wanted to express her thoughts. She didn't mean anything else. When Yunju heard Lin Hui's words, he shook his head left and right before blinking his beady eyes at Lin Hui and said seriously, "I'm not sure if you'll be able to do anything to me. Sister and brother Ce often play kissing games, and they don't even let us watch. Our classmate, Xiao Hui, said that they were hiding from us and secretly making love." Xiao Yunju pursed his lips and said in a very innocent manner. The originally good atmosphere became extremely awkward after Xiao Yunju's words. Yunjian's hand, which was eating ice cream just now, froze. She let go of the spoon in her hand that was scooping ice cream, and it fell to the ground. Xiao Yunju's words just now really made one's imagination run wild. Ahem. Yunjian couldn't help but cough lightly to alleviate the awkwardness. Yunjian and Xiao Yunju all ordered ice cream. Ce didn't order because he didn't like to eat these things. Seeing the spoon in Yunjian's hand slip to the floor due to Yunju's frightening words just now, Yunjian was stunned. Ce reached out and caught the spoon without even looking. Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the others, who were sitting opposite Yunjian and Ce, all gasped when they saw this. Just now, they thought that only Yunjian was so amazing. In the end, this man didn't even look and directly caught the spoon that Yunjian accidentally dropped. Just as everyone was stunned, they saw Ce use Yunjian's spoon to scoop up a mouthful of ice cream and swallow it. With a smirk, he looked at Yunjian from the side and uttered something that was even more misleading with a doting gaze, "This ice cream is very sweet and delicious." Chapter 1253. Ce's words were enough to cause misunderstandings. Yunjian blushed slightly when she heard Ce's words. Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the others were also stunned. When they came back to their senses, their expressions changed slightly. However, most of them were a little embarrassed. At that moment, everyone felt that Ce's words were really embarrassing and full of possessiveness. Furthermore, he had said it so confidently as if he was afraid that others wouldn't know that there was something going on between him and Yunjian. But to be honest, just the fact that Yunjian and Ce were so compatible was enough to make Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the others envious. Yunjian reached out and snatched the spoon back from Ce's hand. She didn't look down on the spoon that Ce had eaten and her face was slightly red. "I'm not giving it to you." Yunjian lowered her head and scooped another mouthful of ice cream. Her cheeks were slightly red as she spoke to Ce. When Ce heard this, he felt that she was acting coquettishly. Ce couldn't help but smile. Cough cough cough. Did you guys know that there will be a surfing competition at the beach later? Let's go and watch, shall we? Xiong Yushu stood up and said softly to ease the awkwardness. As he spoke, Xiong Yushu rubbed his mouth with his hand. Surfing. Little brother, is surfing the kind where people stand on a wooden board and rush around in the sea? Xiao Yunju thought for a while and asked cleverly. When he heard Xiao Yunju's analogy, Xiong Yushu quickly nodded. Yes. I want to go, I want to go. When Xiao Yunju heard this, he quickly ran over and shook Yunjian's hand. Then, he said coquettishly, "Big sister, can you take us to watch the surfing?" Our teacher talked about surfing in class before. I want to watch it. Since Xiao Yunju had spoken, Yunjian naturally wouldn't disagree. She pursed her red lips and immediately agreed, okay. Upon hearing that Yunjian had agreed, Xiao Yunju and the other two were overjoyed. After finishing their ice cream, they set off for the beach. Xiao Yunju and the other two were no longer as mischievous as before. Perhaps it was because she had eaten a large bowl of ice cream. Since it was Xiong Yushu's suggestion, he led everyone to the beach where the surfing competition was going to take place. The beach here was not shallow, so Yunjian and Ce held tightly onto Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya's hands, afraid that the three children would run away. There was a lot of traffic on this beach because there was going to be a surfing competition. The beach, which was originally big enough for a person to run all over the place, was now so crowded that one could only walk slowly. Thus, Yunjian had to hold on to Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya even more tightly. Xiong Yushu, who was leading the team, finally found an empty spot to watch the competition. He had just called Yunjian and the others over when Yunjian narrowed her eyes and saw a familiar face in the crowd. Yunjian leaned against Ce and whispered to him, "Mad Dragon is here." She had arranged to meet Mad Dragon on the boat island, and they had just set the location here. However, Yunjian didn't expect it to be so crowded at first. "Hey, you guys come and play." Lin Huai saw the lively scene and waved her hand to signal Yunjian and Ce to bring Xiao Yunju and the other two over. However, Ce suddenly leaned over and whispered into Yunjian's ear. Chapter 1254. Ce did not know if Lin Huai had turned around, nor did he want to know. He did not want to know about other people's affairs. He only cared about his Xiao Jian. Ce lowered his head and pressed his lips softly to Yunjian's earlobe, ignoring the curious gazes of the people around them. He spoke softly, speaking words that no one around them could hear. Everyone thought that Ce was saying something flirtatious to Yunjian. In fact, Ce had only whispered to Yunjian, "Xiao Jian, do you want Mad Dragon to join the Kosha mercenaries?" It sounded like a question, but Ce had basically confirmed Yunjian's plan. As expected, Yunjian nodded softly after hearing Ce's question. She had only invited Mad Dragon to meet her on Zhoudao because of one thing. She wanted Mad Dragon to join the Kosha mercenaries and expand the Kosha mercenaries' capabilities. Although the Kosha mercenaries' reputation was not to be underestimated internationally, the Kosha mercenaries were still not strong enough. At least, that was what Yunjian thought. A person, an organization, could not stay where they were forever. To achieve greater success, they had to take the big step bravely. Yunjian was never satisfied with the status quo because she knew that she was not good enough. There would always be someone better than her. She had to be the powerhouse who held up the entire mountain in order to protect the people she wanted to protect. Kosha mercenaries would never reject talents, what more an elite like Mad Dragon. It was true that Kuang Long's capability was not on par with Yunjian's, in fact, they were miles apart. However, if Kuang Long was poached by other forces in the future, it would only be an additional enemy and danger to Gu Sha mercenaries. Therefore, Yunjian planned to invite Mad Dragon to join the Kosha mercenaries. "Stay here and accompany Xiao Zhu and the others. Have fun. I'll handle this." Ce had already straightened his body and looked up. He had one hand in his pocket as he spoke in his rich masculine voice. There were many people walking around, but no matter how beautiful Yunjian and Ce were, no one would stop to watch them or eavesdrop on their conversation like they were monkeys. Therefore, Ce did not lower his voice when he said the latter part. "You." Yunjian looked up and pressed her lips together. She was surprised, but there was a faint warmth in her heart. Mad Dragon was now a member of the Inhun organization. Why was this so? It was because all the assassins and agents of the Inhun organization had worked for the organization. In her previous life, Yun Jian had also worked for the Inhun organization for a few years. When she became strong enough, she became the first person to leave the organization. However, Mad Dragon had not completely left Inhun organization. In fact, Inhun organization did not participate in these things. In Inhun organization, as long as you completed the mission, you could leave the organization. Moreover, Inhun organization had never stopped any capable assassins or agents from leaving their control. Yun Jian was the only agent who had completed all the missions given by Inhun organization and left Inhun organization. This was because none of the assassins and agents who wanted to leave Inhun organization to complete their missions lived to see the day they left. However, Yun Jian believed that Mad Dragon could do it. This was because Mad Dragon was strong enough. Yun Jian was touched because Mad Dragon was still a member of Inhun organization. Yun Jian only wanted Mad Dragon to reach an understanding with her and wait for Mad Dragon to leave Inhun organization before officially joining the Kosha mercenaries. However, Ce words were, just as Yun Jian said the word Yu, Ce suddenly reached out and hugged her waist. There seemed to be light in his eyes. Under his handsome face, the corners of his lips were slightly raised. His eyes only reflected her. Other than that, there was nothing else. Chapter 1255. He could give up everything, even in Hun group. He only wanted her. He had never thought that he would meet a woman who he could give up his life for, a woman he wanted to hold in his arms and make her belong to him alone. Ce hated women to the core, to the point where he shuddered at the mere sight of them. He thought that he was destined to be alone and had never yearned for love, much less yearned for it. However, fate had brought him to meet his Xiao Jian. Once Ce loved someone, it was for life. It was impossible for him to let go. She was his woman, so he naturally had to hold her in the palm of his hand. Yun Jian blushed when she heard Ce's last sentence. Ce's words touched her to the core. If it were not for the crowd, she would have hugged him. Take Xiao Zhu and the other girls and wait for me here, Ce said as he rubbed Yun Jian's silky hair gently. Yun Jian did not reject him now as she nodded at Ce. Ce then turned to leave through the crowd. Xiao Yunzhu clapped and exclaimed, "Wow!" Ce Gage touched Jiejia's hair like he's touching mine. Just as Xiao Yunzhu said that, Lin Hui peeked over again, only to see Ce leaving. Lin Hui was suspicious but she still walked over to Yun Jian. "Where's your boyfriend?" "Ha, I'll hold your brother's hand for you. Look after your two younger sisters. We'll stand here, the surfing competition is starting soon." Lin Hui asked nosily before going to Yun Jian with a grin. Lin Hui was only helping Yun Jian hold Xiao Yunzhu's hand out of kindness, preventing Xiao Yunzhu from being pushed or trampled in this crowded place. "Thank you." Yun Jian thanked Lin Hui with a smile. Lin Hui was being kind after all. "Haha, you're welcome." Lin Hui was flattered, scratching her head and saying nothing else. At the same time, someone at the beach announced the start of the competition through the microphone. "Thank you to all the tourists who came to watch the competition. Due to the crowd, we hope that all of you can watch the competition from a safe place. Thank you. Let the competition begin." Not long after Ce left, the surfing competition was about to begin. Ce walked towards the center of the crowd with one hand in his pocket. His tall figure attracted a lot of attention as he walked towards the center of the crowd. Under everyone's gaze, Ce walked to the center of the crowd. He reached out and grabbed the collar of a man who had his back facing him. Without even saying a word, he dragged the man by the collar to an empty corner. Mad Dragon was suddenly grabbed by the collar by CE. He didn't know that the person who grabbed his collar was CE, so he was furious. He was the god of war, Mad Dragon, ranked 3rd on the International Secret Service rankings. How could he be dragged by the collar today after being defeated yesterday? Mad Dragon tried to break free, but he realized that his strength, which was enough to intimidate countless international masters, was useless in front of the person who grabbed him by the collar. CE dragged Mad Dragon to an empty beach before he threw Mad Dragon to the ground. Chapter 1256. It was the man who had been standing next to SS. Mad Dragon's expression changed drastically. Mad Dragon had met CE at the beach yesterday. Of course, that was because CE was standing next to Yunjian. More importantly, the 3 leaders of Enhun were there as well. Therefore, Mad Dragon had suspected that CE was most likely the leader of Enhun. Mad Dragon did not know whether CE was the leader of Enhun or not. In Enhun, other than the 4 leaders, no one else had seen the leader of Enhun. Even Slaying God did not know that CE was the leader of Enhun. If CE had not admitted it, Yunjian would not even know where to start investigating. No matter how good Yunjian was, she would not be able to find out who the leader of Enhun was. Mad Dragon's expression changed drastically, but he did not lose his footing. It was undeniable that Mad Dragon was stronger than all of Yunjian's opponents and teammates. And for a powerful person, being calm and unhurried after encountering a situation was the most basic. Mad Dragon could not confirm that CE was the leader of Enhun just by looking at the 3 leaders of the organization. After all, Enhun had existed for so many years. It was hard for him to believe that the leader of Enhun was a young man who was about his age or even 2 years younger than him. To be honest, it was not that Mad Dragon did not believe it, but he was slightly doubtful. Mad Dragon. Just as Mad Dragon was frowning and trying to guess CE's identity, CE's voice interrupted him. Mad Dragon frowned and looked at CE when his name was called. As a professional agent, Mad Dragon did not respond to CE. I'll give you 3 days. Enhun will let you go as long as you join the Kosha mercenaries within 3 days, CE made his intentions clear. He never bothered to beat around the bush with people because he didn't have the time to talk nonsense with people. You. Mad Dragon's eyes widened and he was completely shocked by CE's words. CE's 3 simple sentences summed up a lot of things. For example, he had indirectly mentioned that he was the leader of Enhun. Other than the 4 leaders of Enhun, no one else could make the decision to release any of Enhun's secret agents or assassins. Except for the leader of Enhun. Remember to voluntarily join the Kosha mercenaries after leaving Enhun. Otherwise, you should know how Enhun deals with traitors. CE did not waste any more time and said simply. Mad Dragon gulped, and when he regained his senses, CE had already walked away. Just as he took 2 steps forward, CE suddenly thought of something and turned to the side. Even Mad Dragon, who was also a man, could not help but admit his inferiority when he looked at his flawless face. Remember, that's my woman. Don't stand within 3 meters of her when you see her in the future. Otherwise, you will become the number 1 person on Enhun's must-kill list. CE raised his eyebrows slightly and said without any change in his expression. The people on Enhun's must-kill list were the wanted criminals of Enhun. As long as they were on Enhun's must-kill list, the assassins or special agents of Enhun had to kill them as soon as they saw them. The number 1 person on Enhun's must-kill list was wanted by the entire Enhun. Even if they did not die, it was definitely not a joke. Chapter 1257. That was a fate worse than death. Mad Dragon's face had darkened to the point of no return. I will definitely head to the Kosha mercenaries within 3 days, and I promise I won't get within 3 meters of her. Mad Dragon was sweating profusely. But on the surface, his expression didn't change at all. However, no one could have imagined that Mad Dragon's heart was so shaken that it was unrecognizable. Big news. Big news. The boss of the Kosha mercenaries, the #1 international secret agent, was actually together with the leader of the Inhun organization who had trained her. Just the fact that CE forbade him from getting close to Yun Jian or he would be marked as the top figure on Inhun's must-kill list was enough to scare Wild Dragon. He wouldn't dare to touch SS even if he died. She was the leader of the Inhun organization. After hearing Mad Dragon's promise, CE smirked. He didn't say anything else and walked towards where Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju were. At this moment, Yun Jian was holding Duan Li and Duan Ya's hands, while Lin Huai was helping Yun Jian hold Xiao Yunju's hand. They were standing at their original spot watching the surfing competition. Wow, sister and the others are so awesome. I want to be as awesome as them when I grow up. Xiao Yunju was still young, so his words weren't true. Children only liked to dream of their own dreams, but they didn't know the cruelty of reality. That was the benefit of being a child. Children didn't need to think too much about the trivial matters of the world. Just like Xiao Yunju, he could say whatever he wanted without any taboos. Xiao Zhu will definitely be so awesome when he grows up. Yun Jian patted Yun Zhu's head with her hand that was holding Duan Li's before taking Duan Li's hand again. Ha ha. Yun Zhu stuck his tongue out at him. By the time CE returned, the surfing competition was already halfway through. CE accompanied Yun Jian to watch Xiao Yunju and the other two surfing competition. It was already past 4 in the afternoon. Because the latest cruise from Zhoudao back to Ning City was at 5 p.m., they had to prepare to return at this time. Lin Hui, Xiong Yushu, and the others planned to stay on the island and play for a day before going back. Yun Jian said goodbye to Lin Hui and the others, and then said goodbye at the Boat Island's pier. This goodbye usually lasted for a lifetime. By the time Yun Jian and Qin Yiru returned to Ningxiao's house in Ning City, it was already 6:00 in the evening. Ningxiao's mother politely prepared a sumptuous dinner. Everyone had dinner in harmony. They were ready to depart for Longmen City early the next morning. Ningxia and Ningxiao's mother even said in a friendly manner that Yun Jian, Qin Yiru, and Mrs. Yang's family would definitely come to Ning City again. They returned to Longmen City after saying their goodbyes. Their return to Longmen City this time was different from before. There was an additional person, Si Luo. Si Luo and Qin Yu got along well, so he wanted to stay at Qin Yu's house when they arrived in Longmen City. Heh, you can't go wrong staying at my house. Don't you think so, Sister Jian? Qin Yu asked Yun Jian when she dragged Si Luo to her house. That's great. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Her hair was loose today, but it was not tied up with a headband. They were still on the bus on the way back. A cool breeze blew outside the window, blowing Yun Jian's hair up. There was a lingering fragrance in her hair that was pleasing to the nose. But I have a little idiot who's noisy every day at home. You have to get used to it. Her name is Gu Nian. Qin Yu chuckled and introduced her to Si Luo. Si Luo did not know how to say anything else, but he was already grateful that Qin Yu was willing to take him in. Shuang could not take it anymore. He rushed up from the back seat to grab Si Luo's wrist and told Qin Yu, "Brother Jian, let's go." Chapter 1258. When Shuang said that, not only were the people on the bus stunned, even Shuang himself was stunned. However, Shuang was different from the others. If it had been someone else who had accidentally said something so awkward, they would have tried to change the topic. However, Shuang was taken aback. He then grabbed Si Luo's hand and leaned against the backrest of Si Luo's seat confidently, continuing to reason with Qing Yu in front of everyone on the bus. She came back with me. I should be the one to take her in. Why are you snatching her away from me? Shuang sounded quite confident. Then, he added after a pause, besides, she's the one who begged me to take her in. You can ask her yourself if you don't believe me. Shuang was still trying to act innocent. Not only did he want to snatch her away, but he also wanted Si Luo to admit that she was the one who wanted to follow him. As he spoke, Shuang tugged at Si Luo's wrist, intending to get her to speak. Si Luo thought that Yun Jian was the boss here, so she turned to look at Yun Jian. Si Luo thought that Yun Jian was the boss because Si had to listen to Yun Jian here. If Yun Jian wanted to go east, Si would not dare to go west. After glancing at Yun Jian, she saw Yun Jian grinning at her. Si Luo pouted and turned her head back. She shrunk her neck in fear and glanced at the scar on Shui Ying's neck before shifting her gaze back to Qing Yu. I think I should stay with Qing Yu. Shuang grabbed Si Luo's wrist tightly. She was terrified but still, she mustered up her courage to speak her mind. She shrunk her neck just as Si Luo finished speaking, afraid that Shuang would scold her. The scar on Shui Ying's neck was horrifying. Si Luo was truly terrified. If she were to see Shuang in the middle of the night at his house, it would really be. On the other hand, Qing Yu was different. Qing Yu was so pretty and would protect her. More importantly, Qing Yu mentioned that she had a silly girl at home who was a troublemaker named Gu Nianji. This way, she would not feel bored staying in Qing Yu's house. So she still chose to. Damn, you're actually planning to do it with her? No, this won't do. You came back with me, so you have to come with me. Shui Ying's grip tightened. In the end, Shuang dragged Si Luo to his house. Shuang stayed in Longmen City for a day upon his return before rushing back to Enhun Group. Shuang was supposed to leave with Lin Wei when they left Longmen City, but he was different today as he left with Si Luo. Si Luo had wanted to stay in Longmen City but she dared not resist Shui Ying's tug. She could only shrink her neck and leave with Shuang under Qing Yu and Yun Jian's cheers. Oh God, Si Luo is so pitiful. Don't you think so, Sister Jian? Qing Yu shook her head, standing at the bus stop to send Shuang and the others to the airport. I think so. Yun Jian turned to give Qing Yu a half-smile and went to see Yi, who was standing not too far away. The next few days were very ordinary. With Si Yi's company for the past few days, Yun Jian's days were anything but ordinary. The third Global Underground Tea Party would be held in a few days' time. To put it bluntly, it was a gathering of the world's underground secret agents and assassins. 3 days before the Underground Tea Party, Yun Jian had a month of peaceful summer vacation. In the blink of an eye, it was almost August. 3 days before the tea party, Yun Jian was asked to attend the graduation ceremony of Junior 3 Class A. The graduation ceremony was held on the 29th of July this time. It was a little late since it was a last-minute event. Chapter 1259. Zhang Xiaofeng was waving at Yun Jian with all his might. Chen Xinyi, on the other hand, had her hands gently cupped by her lips, using this as an excuse to shout at Yun Jian from afar. It had been a few days since Yun Jian had seen Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi, this pair of buffoons. She couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. Hey, it's so embarrassing for the two of you to shout here and there. We have to maintain our poise. Ling Yichen, who was standing beside Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi, coolly flipped his short hair that couldn't be flipped. Then, he struck a cool pose. Screw you. We're all on the same side. Stop pretending. Zhang Xiaofeng slapped Ling Yichen's cool pose away. You're not from our class, yet you're attending our graduation ceremony with us. Aren't you ashamed? Zhang Xiaofeng rebuked Ling Yichen with his master, Yun Jian, backing him up. It's not like I'm the only one from another class who's here to join in the fun. Didn't the other students in your class also invite their classmates who aren't from your class to attend your graduation ceremony? Ling Yichen eloquently rebutted Zhang Xiaofeng. Hey, I say, you're acting all high and mighty when a classmate from another class comes to attend our graduation ceremony. Zhang Xiaofeng joked as he bickered with Ling Yichen. However, before the two of them could finish their bickering, Yun Jian's cold voice rang out, "If the two of you say another word, I'll make you walk backwards right now." Hearing his master's words, Zhang Xiaofeng quickly shrank back. Ling Yichen was also shaken by Yun Jian's imposing manner. Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen believed in Yun Jian's words very much, so the two of them immediately stopped talking. Ha ha ha. My Jian is the best. Chen Xini said as she hooked her arm around Yun Jian's and stuck her tongue out at Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen. Everyone is here, right? We can go to the hotel for lunch. The person who organized the graduation ceremony was Yun Jian's class study committee member, Lin Yeqian. Lin Yeqian was a very ordinary-looking girl, but she was very good at her studies and had excellent organizational skills. It was just that she was usually very quiet and didn't like to talk much. In school, Lin Yeqian always wore her school uniform. Today, she had changed into a white dress, which made her look like a fairy. Sure thing, study commissary, as you wish. Zhang Xiaofeng was at ease, entering the hotel with Yun Jian and the others with a chuckle. Today, the graduation ceremony of the students had even called their teachers over. At this time, the results of the middle school exams were already out. After entering high school, the students would go their separate ways. After entering the private room of the hotel, Yun Jian followed Zhang Xiaofeng and the others to a table. There were 3 to 4 tables set up around them in the same room. This was also to make it easier for the class reunion. After Yun Jian sat down, a few of the rowdier boys in the class started to kick up a fuss. Hey, don't leave later. Qi Xiaoxiao's boyfriend from our class will be here later. Her boyfriend is the young master of prosperous fountain company in Jia province. His family is filthy rich. Qi Xiaoxiao said later that she'll get her boyfriend to bring her to Longmen City's racecourse for horseback riding. It's free for all of us. Prosperous Fountain's young master is treating us, heh heh. Right after the rowdy boys finished speaking, the girl named Qi Xiaoxiao, who had been quite obedient in school, was already wearing a thick layer of makeup. It hadn't even been 2 months since she left school, but she was already wearing heavy makeup. Today, she was even wearing a pink miniskirt with a lot of rouge and face powder on. Qi Xiaoxiao stood up and said proudly, "It's not that exaggerated. My boyfriend's family is only worth tens of millions." A net worth of tens of millions was an unimaginable amount in 1999. Chapter 1260. Upon hearing Qi Xiaoxiao's words, both the male and female students gasped in shock. Wow! Qi Xiaoxiao, your boyfriend's family is so powerful. He's already worth tens of millions. A girl exclaimed at Qi Xiaoxiao with sparkling eyes. Just as the girl finished, another boy chimed in, Qi Xiaoxiao's status now is different from before. She's the future madam of prosperous fountain company. The entire company should be hers in the future. When the boy said that, there was another round of "oh" from the crowd. Qi Xiaoxiao was even more smug when she heard what the boy said. Coincidentally, the boy added, "Qi Xiaoxiao, don't forget us when you're successful in the future." The latter part of his words elicited gasps from the crowd. Yun Jian's identity as an advanced special forces soldier was shocking, but compared to Qi Xiaoxiao, who was likely to be the future madam of prosperous fountain company, the students preferred to suck up to her. It was because Qi Xiaoxiao would become rich. People were all very realistic. In the face of benefits, reputation was not worth mentioning at all. Qi Xiaoxiao picked up a cup of tea and downed it like a rich lady amidst everyone's praises and adulation. Yun Jian was not affected by the atmosphere as she was chatting with Chen Xinyi and her friends at the corner of the dining table. "Master, you'll be studying outside the city after you go to the military school. You must come back to visit us in the future," Zhang Xiaofeng said reluctantly. After all, it was almost a year of friendship. It was not something that could be forgotten so easily. "Yeah, Jian, we're studying in high school in Longmen City. You're out of Longmen City now and going to a high school outside. You must come back to visit us when you're free," Chen Xinyi said, gripping Yun Jian's hand tightly. Yeah, me too. Xiaofeng, Xinyi, and I got into the same high school." Ling Yichen chimed in. Looking at their expectant gazes, Yun Jian nodded and smiled. "Yes, I will." Come to think of it, the first friends she made when she left Xinjiang town and came to Longmen City were Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi. Ling Yichen had gotten to know her not too long after that. Up until today, the three of them had been by his side. However, Yun Jian knew that all good things must come to an end, just like Lu Fian. When they would meet, they would always meet. A person had to walk their own path in life. No one could accompany them to the end because everyone's lifespan and experience were different. No one could be sure. "My boyfriend is here." At this moment, Qi Xiaoxiao, who was sitting at the table next to Yun Jian's, suddenly looked at the door excitedly. Then, she stood up and ran over. To Qi Xiaoxiao, the only reason she could change was because of her boyfriend. Moreover, she had a boyfriend now, so she had become more confident. Back in school, Qi Xiaoxiao was an ugly girl who did not know how to dress up. Now that she was out of school, she knew how to dress up and put on makeup. Now, she could even boldly reveal her boyfriend's assets humbly, eliciting gasps from the people around them. Qi Xiaoxiao was very satisfied with this feeling. Yun Jian did not look up, but Chen Xinyi and the others looked over. A man in his early 20s wearing a pair of ripped pants stood at the door, thinking that he looked cool. It was obvious that he was a delinquent. Chapter 1261. Qi Xiaoxiao pulled on the man named Lin Zihang and boasted to the crowd. As expected, Qi Xiaoxiao's boasting was effective. Just as Qi Xiaoxiao finished her words, the students around them went into an uproar. "What? Qi Xiaoxiao, is what you said true? Your boyfriend is footing the bill for everything we've spent today?" Someone asked Qi Xiaoxiao in disbelief. When Qi Xiaoxiao saw that everyone was so shocked, she was very satisfied that everyone was looking at her with such an expression. Therefore, Qi Xiaoxiao didn't even want to pay attention to those who were looking at her with such an expression. Qi Xiaoxiao hooked her arm around Lin Zihang's and said coquettishly like a little girl, "Zihang, don't you think so? We're footing the bill today. It's just this much anyway. Your allowance for half a day is enough." It turned out that Lin Zihang had not agreed to it yet. Yun Jian did not look up, but she scoffed. Lin Zihang resisted the urge to slap Qi Xiaoxiao. Who asked her to spout nonsense and make him foot the bill? In spite of it, Lin Zihang still had to pretend to be a rich young master who did not care about money. "Eat as much as you want today. It's all on me," Lin Zihang said through clenched teeth. "Then we won't hold back." Ha! Rich people are indeed different. A boy opened his mouth to tease. Everyone was chatting and joking, but most of them were sucking up to Lin Zihong or Qi Xiaoxiao. At this moment, Yun Jian's identity as an advanced special forces soldier was insignificant. In spite of it, it was what Yun Jian wanted. Halfway through the meal, Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihong went out to settle the bill. Since they had to go to Longmen City's racecourse in the afternoon, they had to finish their lunch quickly or they would not have enough time to play. Jian, come with me to the washroom. Chen Sini asked Yun Jian as she held her stomach. Yun Jian was done eating and had nothing to do now, so she stood up to accompany Chen Sini to the washroom when Chen Sini called her. Hotel washrooms were usually separated into male and female washrooms with sinks. Yun Jian didn't go to the ladies' room. She was there to accompany Chen Sini. She stood at the sink and waited for Chen Sini. Suddenly, a very soft conversation could be heard from afar. Yun Jian's ears were very sensitive. Although she didn't deliberately listen, she could still hear the conversation coming from the side of the sink and the stairs. Rather than a conversation, it was more like a couple kissing. Zihang. Zihang. Yun Jian could tell that it was Qi Xiaoxiao's voice that came from her. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She leaned against the wall and hid by the staircase, squinting her eyes to look. At the staircase, Qi Xiaoxiao was hugging Lin Zihang and the two of them were kissing happily. He was really thirsty. Yun Jian sneered silently. In this era, there weren't many surveillance cameras installed in hotels, at least not here. Moreover, the staircase where Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang were kissing had no windows. It was dark and gloomy, so not many people used it. Xiaoxiao. Lin Zihang's hand had already reached into Qi Xiaoxiao's clothes naughtily. Don't. Qi Xiaoxiao moaned coyly. The voice sent chills down Yun Jian's spine. Yun Jian squinted when she saw Qi Xiaoxiao stop Lin Zihang's hand and said shyly to him, Zihang, we're already like this. When are you going to get engaged to me? Yun Jian raised a brow. Chapter 1262. Yun Jian could clearly feel Qi Xiaoxiao's shock at Lin Zihang's sudden change in attitude. After all, Qi Xiaoxiao was dating Lin Zihang with the goal of marrying him. Zihang, what did you say? Didn't I already do it with you? Why are you going back on your words? Didn't you say before? Qi Xiaoxiao was dumbfounded. She thought she would really marry Prosperous Fountain Company's young master, Lin Zihang, like what her classmates said. Before? What did I say before? Lin Zihang refused to admit it. Initially, Lin Zihang could still say a few words to coax Qi Xiaoxiao, but when Qi Xiaoxiao said that he would foot the bill for today's class reunion, Lin Zihang changed his mind completely. That wasn't a small sum. What right did she have to make the decision for him? Did she really think that she was his housekeeper? Lin Zihang was thoroughly enraged. But didn't we already? You said that as long as I'm with you, you'll treat me well. What's yours is mine. Qi Xiaoxiao was stunned by Lin Zihang's words. While they were still arguing, Yun Jian had returned to the sink. Just as she did so, Chen Sini's screams came from the washroom. Jian, I didn't bring any tissues. What should I do? Jian, can you help me ask the front desk if there are any tissues? We can see the front desk if we go down the stairs. Chen Sini was upset as she squatted in the washroom and shouted at Yun Jian with her hands covering her face. Okay. Yun Jian nodded faintly. Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang were still arguing by the stairs. Overall, Lin Zihang had the upper hand. Lin Zihang pinched Qi Xiaoxiao's chin and told her, I'm just interested in you and your F***king taking advantage of me. Do you think I have to marry you just because we've slept together a few times? Ha, I've always been the one leading you in bed like a dead fish. If you know what's good for you, be good and don't be so shameless. I can still give you face and play with you for a while. Otherwise, I'll make you look bad today. Lin Zihang said fiercely to Qi Xiaoxiao. He had exposed his viciousness in its original form. Revealing his true colors was nothing more than this. Qi Xiaoxiao was shocked by Lin Zihang's ugliness. She originally thought that the matter of her becoming the Madam of Prosperous Fountain Company was already set in stone. Now that she had bragged, how was she going to face others in the future? Lin Zihang, how could you do this? You didn't say that before. You said that as long as I was with you, you would treat me well for the rest of my life. You still dare to say that you? Qi Xiaoxiao had only just finished her sentence. Lin Zihang didn't even have time to interrupt Qi Xiaoxiao. At this moment, a figure silently passed by the two of them. Yun Jian didn't make any sound as she stepped on the stairs. She walked past Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang as if she didn't hear their heated conversation and headed downstairs. Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang were arguing just now and Yun Jian didn't make any sound when she walked. Thus, the two of them only noticed Yun Jian when she appeared in front of them. Especially when it was dark on the stairs, Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang were so shocked that they almost fell down when they saw Yun Jian. At this moment, Yun Jian had already walked past Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang and was about to head down the stairs. Qi Xiaoxiao finally saw Yun Jian clearly. When she saw that this person was actually Yun Jian, she was so shocked that her face turned pale. Lin Zihang was also shocked. Nobody wanted their scandals to be spread. Especially people like Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang who were prideful. Yun Jian. Stop right there. Qi Xiaoxiao shouted at Yun Jian after she saw her clearly. Did Yun Jian hear my conversation with Lin Zihang just now? How much did she hear? Yun Jian didn't bother with Qi Xiaoxiao. This time, Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang rushed down together and blocked Yun Jian's path. Qi Xiaoxiao even pointed at Yun Jian and said, Yun Jian, stop right there. I told you to stop right there. No one can order me around. Yun Jian suddenly looked sideways at Qi Xiaoxiao. Her sharp eyes were filled with murderous intent. Yun Jian's words made Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang tremble. Chapter 1263. Yun Jian's sudden words made Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang tremble. You, what did you say? Qi Xiaoxiao was shocked by Yun Jian's words. Qi Xiaoxiao took 2 steps back at the thought that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier. But very quickly, Qi Xiaoxiao was afraid that her scandal with Lin Zihang would be exposed and she was even more afraid that she had bragged in front of everyone. Many people even said that she could become the future madam of Xingyuan Company. But in such a short time, Lin Zihang didn't want her anymore. That wasn't the main point. The main point was that Lin Zihang wasn't tired of her. This meant that if Qi Xiaoxiao didn't say anything, no one would know. But she had just bragged in front of so many people and Yun Jian had seen it. Yun Jian heard what she said. How much did she hear? How was she going to face others if this got out? Yun Jian, what did you hear? Let me tell you, my boyfriend is the young master of Xingyuan Company. If you dare to say a word about what you just heard, I'll make sure you're in big trouble. Qi Xiaoxiao was obviously scared to death. If people found out that she had slept with Lin Zihang, the main thing was that Lin Zihang didn't want to marry her anymore. If this got out, she would lose all her face. She would definitely be done for. When people talked about her, they would only say that she was a slut. She didn't know how to behave at such a young age. Qi Xiaoxiao was afraid, so she stopped Yunjian from going downstairs, not allowing Yunjian to go downstairs. Yunjian glanced at Qi Xiaoxiao. Yunjian was taller and slimmer than Qi Xiaoxiao. Qi Xiaoxiao was also a little chubby. Lin Zihang stood in the dark corridor of the staircase and couldn't see Yunjian's face clearly, but he knew that Yunjian wasn't bad just by looking at Yunjian's figure. That playboy aura of his was aroused again. Of course, Lin Zihang didn't want his scandal to be exposed. If his father found out that he was fooling around with a woman like Qi Xiaoxiao, his pocket money would be deducted in the future. Thus, Lin Zihang stopped Yunjian from going downstairs and said to Qi Xiaoxiao while panting, "You don't want others to know either, right? Then come over here and help me record it. I'm going to *CK her right here. Then she's in the same boat as us." Lin Zihang stretched out his hand and threw the phone to Qi Xiaoxiao, thinking that he was suave. Current cell phones didn't have the ability to record, but they already had the ability to record. "What, you?" Qi Xiaoxiao didn't expect Lin Zihang to say something like that. She was stunned. What else can we do? This was the best way to seal this woman's mouth. "Qi Xiaoxiao, hurry up!" Lin Zihang roared. Qi Xiaoxiao gritted her teeth. She also felt that this was probably the best way. At this moment, Lin Zihang had already lunged towards Yunjian. Needless to say, Lin Zihang's idea was the safest. If it had been any other girl today, she would have been completely ruined by Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang. Fortunately, the person standing here today was Yunjian. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. There was no light here and she could feel Lin Zihang's hand reaching towards her. Yunjian dodged to the side gently. Then, she kicked Lin Zihang's abdomen and stomped him to the ground. She didn't even lift a finger. She stomped Lin Zihang's body to the ground with her foot alone. The entire process took less than 2 seconds. Even in the dark, Lin Zihang was shocked by Yunjian's skills. Qi Xiaoxiao suddenly remembered that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier. In the next second, she heard Yunjian's eerie voice clearly. "Ha, it's so quiet here and no one's walking around. If I kill you now, cut your bodies into 8 pieces and throw them into a gunny sack and throw them into the stream, will anyone discover your bodies?" Yunjian's words were terrifying, especially with her skills and in this dark environment. Chapter 1264. Yunjian didn't waste any more time with Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang. She didn't intend to bother anyway. Besides, Chen Xinyi was still waiting for her in the toilet. After Yunjian finished her sentence, she walked downstairs lazily with her hands in her pockets as if nothing had happened. Qi Xiaoxiao was shocked. Her hands were unsteady just now and she accidentally dropped Lin Zihang's phone on the floor. However, both Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang weren't paying attention to this. They were more concerned about whether Yunjian would reveal what she said just now. Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang didn't say anything as they watched Yunjian walk down the stairs towards the front desk on the first floor. After a while, Lin Zihang shouted angrily at Qi Xiaoxiao, "Hurry and help me up. It hurts so much." Damn it. Qi Xiaoxiao was so shocked that she quickly ran over to help Lin Zihang up. After all, Qi Xiaoxiao had to coax Lin Zihang so that her days of being admired would last longer. After helping Lin Zihang up, Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang quickly walked towards the room where their classmates were. Although they were afraid that Yunjian would reveal what she saw just now, Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Zihang were more afraid that Yunjian would go back first. Because at least if they went back first, even if Yun Jian wanted to talk nonsense, she wouldn't be able to prove it. For the next period of time, Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Ziheng were in a state of tension. When the classmates talked to Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Ziheng, they could clearly feel that Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Ziheng were distracted. Because they didn't know what was going on, the classmates didn't pay much attention to it. Until Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi returned from the toilet, Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Ziheng didn't even bother to be polite with their classmates. Their eyes were constantly on Yun Jian. Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi had just returned to their seats when Zhang Xiaofeng's scolding voice was heard. Damn, Xinyi, why did you take so long to go to the toilet? I almost thought you fell into a pit. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll beat you up. When Chen Xinyi heard this, she was a little petty. She immediately clenched her fist and puckered her lips as she lightly punched Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng laughed as he grabbed Chen Xinyi's fist that was coming at him. He then continued to tease her. Take it easy, I'm not the same as before. Right now, I have the ultimate technique that Master personally imparted to me. Ha ha ha. With that, Zhang Xiaofeng even waved his hand, pretending to be very domineering. Of course, Zhang Xiaofeng was simply joking. It was just the kind of playful banter between acquaintances. Chen Xinyi was amused by Zhang Xiaofeng's actions. Even Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile. Xiao, why are you looking at Yun Jian over there? A girl from the next table asked in a strange tone. Suddenly, there was the sound of chopsticks falling to the ground, followed by the sound of Qi Xiaoxiao's messy hands and feet. No, I just think she looks especially good today. I wonder what foundation she's wearing today, haha. From her voice, one could tell that Qi Xiaoxiao was in a panic. The more Yun Jian pretended that nothing had happened, the more Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Ziheng were afraid that she had ulterior motives. However, in reality, Yun Jian didn't want to care about what had just happened. I don't wear makeup. Yun Jian's cold voice was heard. Her voice was icy, sending chills down one's spine. Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Ziheng shivered at the same time. Chapter 1265. The awkward atmosphere from before had been resolved by Lin Yaqian. Everyone had already finished eating. Now, they stood up and walked out of the hotel with their friends. Yun Jian, Chen Xinyi, and the other two girls exited the hotel as well. Qi Xiaoxiao and Lin Ziheng walked out of the hotel arm in arm. However, it wasn't hard to tell that they had a lot on their minds just by looking at their expressions. It's not too far to walk to the racecourse from here. We'll be there in about 20 minutes, Lin Yaqian said methodically as she stood in front of everyone. Our study committee member has spoken. Let's follow her, aha. A few of the more mischievous boys chimed in when they heard Lin Yaqian. Although it was a class reunion, it was mostly a gathering of friends who got along well with them. They were separated into twos and threes, but they were all going to the same place. Yun Jian, Chen Xinyi, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Ling Yichen were close friends, so they went together. Just as they stepped out of the hotel, Yun Jian saw a familiar figure at the entrance. It was Qing Yu. It was obvious that Qing Yu was here for Yun Jian. Yun Jian's lips curled as she went over. Sister Jian, Qing Yu called out to Yun Jian when she saw her. Yun Jian saw Qing Yu as well. She was pulling on a rope that was tied around Gu Nianji's hands, who stood not too far away. Gu Nianji stood on the side with a pout as her hands were tied up. When she saw Yun Jian, Gu Nianji told Yun Jian angrily. Yun Jian, I won't kill you. Let me go. This rope is tied up like I'm a prisoner. I'm a formidable character who can scare a lot of people to death back where I come from. How am I supposed to face this? As she spoke, Gu Nianji tugged on the rope with both hands. Ever since Gu Nianji failed to assassinate Yun Jian the last time, she had completely given up on trying to assassinate Yun Jian. Yun Jian was too strong. She couldn't beat her at all. Therefore, Gu Nianji wanted to return to the Yulong continent. After all, she was from the Yulong continent and was an assassin there. If Gu Nianji had to choose, she wouldn't have been so stupid as to tear up the notice on the billboard and come to Earth to assassinate Yun Jian for the generous reward. She regretted it so much. Where was the medicine for regret? She would definitely be the first to buy it. Seeing that someone had suddenly appeared and was looking for Yun Jian, some of the students who were walking past turned their heads to look at Yun Jian. After all, his classmates had been paying close attention to him. Especially when Gu Nianji was tied up by Qingyu, it was too eye-catching. However, when they heard what Gu Nianji said to Yun Jian, the boys and girls who were about to walk past them all stopped in their tracks. One of the female students was even quicker than Yun Jian when she asked Gu Nianji, "You want to kill Yun Jian?" Murder. Are you kidding me? Or was he acting? Murder is against the law. Of course, normal people would be shocked to hear what Gu Nianji said. Especially students of this age who were usually more free and lazy. The students who passed by Yun Jian stopped to look at Gu Nianji and Yun Jian. The problem is that I can't beat Yun Jian. I can't kill her. Gu Nianji said innocently, as if she did not feel that murder was wrong. Gu Nianji, who came from the Yulong continent, was just like Lan Su back then. She knew nothing about Earth. Gu Nianji then turned to look at Yun Jian. "Yun Jian, let me go. Look at how long Qingyu's been keeping me locked up. It's so rare for me to get some sunlight today. I feel like I'm turning into a vampire." The surrounding students could not understand what Gu Nianji and Yun Jian were saying. In spite of it, a lot of students had shifted their attention to Yun Jian. The more they could not understand, the more interested they were. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.